is when we see the rockets landing on the drone ships out in the ocean, because the ocean is big, right? And this drone ship looks small, but realistically, the drone ship is the size of a football field. And one of my absolute favorite memories that I've had in the 7 years that I've been at SpaceX, I actually was hosting the webcast when we successfully landed on the drone ship for the first time. So for anybody that might remember those days, there were a few unsuccessful.
So just wanted to show something. So I was just thinking about this, and it looks like we might get a thanks, Super Serious. I was just thinking about this, and we may get what has been known, what has become known as a SpaceX Nebula. So sometimes when you have a night launch, but it's near the same time as sunset, it can be dark on the ground, but it is still light at altitude. And so you can get this amazing effect where you can see the sunlight reflecting off of the exhaust plumes of the spacecraft as it performs maneuvers in space. This looks like this. This is one that happened in 2018. And looks like there's a good chance that we will have this effect tonight, so it could be a fairly spectacular launch for those watching in Florida, and for all of those photographers that are there as well. Just wanted to show that off. Oh, they're talking about Starship.
When you envision Starship, the first time I saw it with my own eyes, I wept with joy. It's just an incredible monster of a vehicle, and there's a view of that stacking next to what is essentially a fixed service structure there. And yeah, so it's super exciting to follow along with all the advancements. Everybody knows that it changes not on a monthly, not on a weekly, but a daily basis there in Starbase, Texas.
Yeah, and what I love that Starship is doing is they're very manufacturing and production focused, and that is very key for us to continue to fly and reuse these vehicles and learn as much as possible. But we also need to build them in the first place. And you know, the faster that we can build, the more that we can learn about designing it for manufacturability, designing it for that reusability. And again, we've done so much of that with Falcon and Dragon, and now taking that to Starship and using all that knowledge and improving, just constantly improving our manufacturing and production of these vehicles.
Absolutely. There's the innovation there, regardless of success or failure. It is constant because we're learning just every second that we continue to build down there.
Yeah, super excited to see what Starship has for us in the future. But we are marching towards 1 hour and 35 minutes until liftoff. Let's talk a little bit more about the mission today. So the crew is not going to the International Space Station. They will be lifting off from Pad 39A, spending about 3 days in orbit at a flight apogee of 575 kilometers. Here is an animation of where the crew will be at altitude-wise. They're going to be higher than the International Space Station, higher than the Hubble telescope, and honestly higher than any humans other than those that went to the moon.
Yeah, and you see that it's a little bit further out than the International Space Station. It will take a couple burns, about 45 minutes apart, for us to raise to that cruising orbit. And just something unique to that, if you followed along with our crew missions, there are multiple transfer burns that get us to the International Space Station. It's extremely precise maneuvering that needs to happen in order to dock with the International Space Station. As a reminder, these vehicles are going at 17,500 miles per hour. We don't need to do that for this mission. So we just need a couple burns to get us to that very far out orbit of 575 kilometers.
One thing we ought to alert folks is they watch the ascent and we see the second stage. We typically put up the velocity and the altitude of each of the vehicles. The Falcon 9 will put Dragon into the low Earth orbit about 190 kilometers by 575. So they don't go into the final orbit right away. Jesse, as you just said, we're going to very quickly after we get into orbit, I think before they take suits off or anything, we'll do burns of the Draco engines, the smaller ones, to lift that orbit a couple of steps to 575. So if you're watching in the webcast and you go, wow, the Dragon just separated, why isn't it showing 575 kilometers? That's because we've got 2 more burns that we still got to go through.
Incredible
Burns.
shot there of pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center. And like Andy mentioned before, yeah, this is going to 575 kilometers. This is the furthest that humans will have traveled away from planet Earth since the end of the Apollo program in 1972. So we are continuing to march toward T0, and it's safe to say that the energy is growing. It's becoming more and more real. I mean, with a blue sky like that, how can it not be real that, we're going to space today, hopefully. So proceeding towards the 1.5 hour mark here away from liftoff. Away from planet Earth since the end of the Apollo program.
As Kate mentioned, an hour and a half, a little bit more to go. In that view you see on your screens, the sun slowly beginning to set over Florida. Blue skies, wispy clouds. The weather continues to look good. Again, 90% probability of good weather, although for some reason they always like to report the probability of violation as 10%. So we look at the flip side and say 90% good weather. We will continue to watch as we get close in the next 90 minutes to T0 and the sun sets. Looking at ground level winds, and we're looking to see if there might be a pop-up thunder shower somewhere that creates what they call anvil clouds. That's something you don't want to fly the spacecraft through.
We don't want no anvils.
The other thing that we've got is, I mentioned earlier, we are releasing balloons. The range is releasing balloons that allow us to measure wind speed and wind shear in the upper altitudes. Right now, the balloon data coming back shows upper altitude looks well behaved. So the weather, both here and around the world for the next few days, continuing to look good.
Yeah, John, you're mentioning this weather. And this is a very unique mission. Again, we're not going to the International Space Station, so we do have to make sure that weather is good on liftoff and returning back home. So the procedure for picking the launch window is actually a little bit different. We reserved a couple of days, a couple of 24-hour days for the mission, but had to wait until L-5 or 5 days before the first launch day that was selected to narrow it down to 12 hours. And then after that, we waited until L-3 to select the 5-hour launch window that we have today. And then we have 4 opportunities in each of those launch windows about an hour apart to lift off. So it's a very unique case. So we really just knew just 3 days ago what the T0 in the launch window would be.
Yeah, and one point to make, we may hear it from the crew. There are 4 launch opportunities in the 5-hour window that we're getting ready to come into here in 90 minutes. Right now, we're also listening in for a quickie launch escape system check that the Dragon team's supposed to do at about T-minus 90 minutes. While we're waiting for that, you may hear the term T01. The tablets that the crew has, that Jarrett, mission commander, has, are set up for the first launch opportunity coming up in just under 90 minutes. So they call that one T01. The next one, about 102 minutes after that, is T02, then T03, and T04. But right now, everything continues to look good for T01 at 8:02 and 56 seconds p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time.
On screen right now is the crew on the left-hand side. On the foreground is Jared Isaacman. He is the mission commander, and we saw him interacting with the touchscreen monitors that are in front of them. Those will provide the crew with telemetry data, engine
Griffin.
data, really anything they need for the mission.
Busy looking stuff
And
up.
now that the seats have been reclined
Thanks for coming
upwards,
to watch.
they have access to those screens now.
We're less than 90 minutes now.
As John mentioned before, we have a 5-hour launch window tonight with 4 opportunities in that 5-hour window. And the reason we actually have a window for a crew mission this time is, like Jesse said earlier, we're not going to the space station. So with space stations, it's an instantaneous launch window, really a moment, a fraction of a second, because of the final destination being the space station and having to chase it, catch up to it. Since we're not doing that today, the crew is actually going to an altitude above the space station. They'll be cruising around 575 kilometers above Earth. Because we're not chasing the station specifically, we have a little bit more flexibility to today's launch opportunities.
If you're just now joining us, what you are seeing
Hey,
on your
Smiling
screen
Viking.
is the first all-civilian crew, Inspiration 4. They're all strapped into their seats inside of Dragon Resilience, preparing for T0 shortly here. We're just at T-minus 1 hour and 27 minutes. And they're completing some final procedures here. They've already done comms checks, suit leak checks, closed the hatch and done the hatch leak check. So the closeout team has exited.
Action's going to start picking up here again around T-minus 1 hour, about 26
they're
minutes from
preparing
now.
to finish their procedures there, and we'll be
Yeah, a
exiting
whole bunch of
the
things that
crew
happened in
arm
the last hour before
in
launch,
roughly
including
26
fueling
minutes or
the
so.
vehicle.
Yes, a lot of notable milestones of this mission. So Haley Arsenault will be the youngest American to go into space. She will be also the first with a prosthetic. Dr. Cyan Proctor will be the first Black female pilot of a spacecraft. This is the furthest that we're going to be sending humans since the Apollo missions. And I'm trying to recall them all in my mind. This is the first time that we're going to be having 3 Dragons in orbit. So we currently have 1 cargo Dragon and 1 crew Dragon at the International Space Station. This will be the 3rd. So a lot of exciting things to happen as part of today's Inspiration 4 mission.
Exactly. It's been an exciting day so far. And if you're just now joining us, you are watching the very first all-civilian mission to orbit, known as Inspiration 4. At T-minus 7 hours, the crew woke up. Shortly after that, they performed some medical checks prior to their first meal of the day, which they had at Hangar X with some
I would like
friends
to
and
recommend
family.
everybody
And then followed
step
by
on over
crew walkout
to,
of
I mean, if you can,
Hangar
if
X
it's
as they made their
comfortable
way
for
to
you,
their
and,
Teslas.
Yep, and they hopped into the Teslas and made their way
not a
towards
big
the
deal.
suit-up room. SpaceX's
would recommend
debut of the suit-up room in the
that everybody go step on over to the YouTube stream and donate to the fundraising for St. Jude. St. Jude Children's Hospital is collecting funds from this to perform cancer research for children. And you can find the donation link on the YouTube video right here. Jared Isaacman has already donated $100 million to St. Jude for this mission, and I think they raised another $40 million, and then they're hoping to raise a whole bunch more money today.
And hopping in the elevators, ascending.
type of debris inside of the Dragon capsule.
And then we saw the closure of the side hatch. They performed the leak check on that side hatch. We got good news there. Everything was good. And at this point, we are awaiting the LES checks, which will, once those are
Launch
complete,
escape
we'll get
system
the
checks.
okay for the closeout crew to leave the White Room.
So
Then we
Crew
get
Dragon-
inside T-minus 1 hour. Things get, that's
LES is the launch escape system. Crew Dragon has a pusher launch escape system, which means it has 4 Draco engines on the side of the spacecraft, which can lift it off of the rocket even while the rocket is in full flight and fly away to safety if something bad happens to the rocket. They also enable it before the vehicle begins fueling. So even if there's a fueling accident on the pad for the rocket, the spacecraft with the 4 crew members will take off away from the pad and go land in the ocean under parachutes. Hopefully we never see it used, but it is really nice to know that it is there.
35 minutes, as is traditional for Falcon 9, and then we will count down for an on-time launch at 8:02:56 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Now, one thing, we're going to a 575-kilometer altitude orbit today. Dragon will take itself up there after the Falcon 9 drops it off. And I was looking on my maps, and from here to the Golden Gate Bridge, Hawthorne, California, where we're seeing the Golden Gate Bridge, is 573 kilometers. So if you drove from here to the Golden Gate Bridge, take us about the same amount of time as when the crew woke up at T-minus 8 hours or so. You could get there and do the same distance. The only difference is, while I may be doing the speed limit all the way to the Golden Gate Bridge, you'll never get to space trying to drive your car vertically upwards. It takes a lot more energy over a short period of time, and that's one thing that makes, as we like to say, launch is hard or space is hard. You've got to essentially take, as Kate mentioned earlier, that 1 million pounds of propellant and find a way to burn it in 10 minutes so you can get your velocity up to 17,500 miles an hour, about 7.5 kilometers per second, and that'll finally get Falcon 9's second stage and the Dragon into orbit. Now, there's one thing I do want to mention. Dragon goes into orbit, but the second stage is going just as fast. It's just Dragon will pop off. So both will be in orbit, and then later on, the second stage comes back down to Earth, burns up. We don't try to land it. That'll be on the Starship program.
Yeah, we are about...
So the man who was just speaking was John Innsbrucker, a commentator who was just speaking. John Innsbrucker is kind of a legend in the space industry. He has been flying rockets for decades. He is retiring soon. He's generally very well loved among SpaceX fans. He for a long time, ran the Titan II rocket program for the U.S. military. He's kind of been around this stuff forever. So it's really cool to see him part of this,
if you will. And so it'll be going in my satchel on suit-up day, and I'm going to fly it in space for them. I think we all now have like a really close connection with dragons, and this seemed really appropriate, something hopefully my family will want to pass along for generations to come.
What I have here today are a couple of things that my mother-in-law has asked me to take up into space for her, and some of the connections to these items are just kind of special. So what I have here are 2 pins. They're both orders of the Eastern Star. I mean, if you can take a look at that and see those, but that's that one, and then there's a smaller one here, and this guy here. But these belonged not to her, but to her great-grandmother. The reason it's important to me is not only is it talking about some history and some family connections. My grandfather on my mom's side was a Mason, and my grandmother was also an order member of the Eastern Star, and they were 2 of the coolest people I think I knew. My grandfather had a way of really making anyone feel at ease and welcoming anyone he saw, regardless of their background or where they were from or what they thought. And knowing that, that being able to take up little pins like this that represent something that meant a lot to him and to other folks that in my family, I think that means a lot.
I'm very happy to report that I have turned in all of my payload. I've been thinking about what I wanted to bring to space since January, and I finally turned everything in. And one thing that I'm really excited about that I'm bringing to space is this old picture of me. This is when I was 10 years old and going through bone cancer treatment. And so when I'm in space, I'm gonna pull this photo out, and now getting to be in space, my hair is gonna float everywhere, but yet hold this old picture of me and show all my patients, all these kids going through cancer treatment around the world, that there's a future, that it gets better, and I'm excited to be part of it.
That's so cool.
Our training's going really well. One of the other big things we've been working on is our packing for space list, which, I mean, how often do you get to say that you get to pack for space? And thinking about items that are important to us, that have meaning in some way, that we really want to bring with us. And so I have an item here. It's around my neck that
Thanks,
I
Griffin.
will take off.
Thank you
And
for
this
announcing.
is a ring. And it's my dad's ring. And it's really cool because it's a Thunderbird. And my dad used to wear this all the time. And he passed away when I was 19. So I don't know the origin story of this, but it's a unique design and it's pressed into the ring. And my dad absolutely loved it. And like I said, wore it all the time. And unfortunately, both my parents have passed away. So my mom, I can't even ask her, like, what's the story behind this ring? But I think my dad actually got this before he met my mom. So he's had it for a very long time. And so I'm going to bring that to space to represent my dad. I have my mom's ring here to represent her. And so I've got both my parents, and then something kind of unique and special that they got for me when I was born is this commemorative coin from the island of Guam. So it says Guam, USA, and it says where America's day begins. And so I've had this coin.
That's cool.
And has 1970 on it because that's the year I was born. And so I feel like this is the first gift my parents ever got for me, was this coin when I was born, and I've had it now for 51 years. And so I'm bringing that to space with me. So I have my coin, and then I have my 2 rings from my parents. And I'm excited to bring them along for this incredible, amazing journey experience. And thank you for everything that you've done to help me get there.
Love seeing how they've all selected things to take with them. In space, weight is everything. So while they probably wanted to take as much as they could, there are limitations, but it seemed like the common theme was family. Personally, I think my favorite thing is the photo of Haley that she's taking. Like she said, she underwent treatment for bone cancer when she was 10, and she's taking up a photo. And of course, she's going to have a photo of herself floating there with hair. And I just love that she's going to have the opportunity to show the patients that she treats at St. Jude that it gets better, and that they can grow up and be an astronaut one day too.
Yeah, I think Jared's memento of a dragon is par for the course today, as they are all seated in dragon. So I think that him and his family are going to have tons of memories to come and be able to share that for generations to come too.
Yeah, I love that they get to take a little bit of something with them. As we've been talking throughout this whole mission, it seems so personal. They get personalized suits, and now they get to bring something with them, some memorabilia for themselves, which I think is really important for a mission like this. So in addition to the space science, in addition to the science supplies and personal items, the Inspiration 4 crew is also taking up a number of items that will be auctioned off to help raise money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. This includes an original Kings of Leon NFT that was created using live show visuals and a live recording of the band's new single, Time in Disguise, recorded during their hometown show in Nashville just a few weeks ago. The NFT was loaded onto an iPhone 12 and will be played by one of the Inspiration 4 crew members while in space. And there's going to be a bunch of other cool stuff going up that will be auctioned off as well.
Yeah, there's quite a list of things that are heading up. Some of you might recall the Time magazine that was recently published with the Inspiration 4 crew. I think it was such an iconic shot. It was very stoic looking. And there's going to be a copy of that flying on this mission, and the crew will autograph it after the Dragon capsule splashes down in a couple of days. And of course, something for little ones, there's a handful of plastic and plush STEM toys based on the animated series Space Racers. So again, all of these things are available through auction, which is currently live.
Yeah, I love, there's going to be a ukulele in space. Chris is going to be playing a ukulele, and then it's going to come back and be up for auction again, all for a great cause. So I'm so excited to, one, hear him play, and two, see a ukulele in space.
Yeah, and again, this mission is a fundraiser for St. Jude, and I love that they're going to even have some Inspiration 4 mission jackets, which are going to feature some artwork from some of the patients at St. Jude, which is going to be pretty incredible. I think that's definitely something I'm going to try and get.
And there's something on board that I know John I loves, pens that write in space.
Yeah.
They've got the, for those who remember, we had the Fisher space pens that worked in microgravity. And so Fisher has got a 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 that was a couple of years ago. But they're flying that in a coin set into space, and they've included material that's actually from Apollo 11. So something else interesting to bid on.
Yeah, super cool. They're also taking up a customized Mont Blanc Starwalker writing instrument, as well as some stationery that the crew will get to journal about, their experience in space while they're up there. Like I mentioned before, this auction is open. Actually, it opened on Thursday, September 9th, and it will run through November with all of these different items, including the ones we mentioned and more. They'll all be available at various points during the overall mission. And you can bid on these auction items if any of them called to you. Head on over to stjude.org/inspiration4 and check them out.
We're T-minus 1 hour, 11 minutes, 21 seconds, counting down. Everything continues to go well. We also did hear during that last segment, the closeout team has left the crew access arm. So we're actually still running about 19 minutes ahead of schedule on the closeout activities. Earlier, I got in my pitch for my usual, hey, launch is hard, space is hard, and this is kind of the rockets and spacecraft 101. One of the things I thought about, why is it hard? Why can't you just aim your car and go up, 575 kilometers? And we talked a little bit about, hey, you've got to get 1 million pounds of propellant. You've got to figure out how to burn it in 10 minutes. You got to steer the rocket, so you've got to be able to have engines that move, can, withstand wind gusts, get the rockets on the right trajectory. Then we're talking about like the space pen that works in microgravity. You think about it, when our first stage is getting ready to come back to Earth, there's no gravity. So that means none of the propellant is down at the bottom of the inlets to the engines. So that's one of the things you have to work in space, both here and on Dragon. How do you get propellant into the inlet of the pumps and the valves so that instead you're not pushing gas through there? And that's a bad thing that happens when you want liquid and you only get gas going through your rocket. So that's just one of the things that we've got to do. And of course, we've got to fight the force of gravity. 9.8 meters per second squared we've got to overcome. And so I don't know about you, but when I took physics class, as always, you're sitting on a sled on a frozen pond. It's frictionless. And then how fast do you throw the bricks overboard that are on your sled to essentially make the sled move? And how fast can you go depends on how fast you throw the bricks out. And that leads you to the famous rocket equation. Look that one up, you can see that, but essentially it all comes down to how efficient is the engine and how efficient is the structure. And in the case of the Falcon 9, we tried to be as mass efficient as we could so that we carry mostly propellant with just a thin skin of tank around it to hold it. So the more propellant you've got and the less tank and the less weight of the engines, the more efficient you're going to be, and that way you can carry more into space. And that eventually is where we're going, put humanity out into space.
Yeah, and so we talked a little bit about the time of launch, and today is a little bit different because we have up to 4 opportunities to launch our inspiration for crew members. But if we're doing things like trying to rendezvous with the International Space Station, we have to target a very, very specific window. And so depending on the profile of the launch, how high we're sending it, which type of orbit we're sending it, liftoff time does play a factor into that.
Yeah, one of the important things on, we talked about earlier is we don't have a 1-second window today. We've got a 5.2 hour window. It's a 1-second window when we're going to the space station because we have to synchronize the launch with when the space station's orbital plane is passing over Florida. It's not exactly overhead, we have to lead it a little bit. But if you think about it, in Florida, we're rotating at about almost 1,500 kilometers an hour going eastward. Doesn't feel like that, but put your seatbelts on, the Earth is rotating. That's 25 kilometers every minute. So if you waited about like a 15-minute launch window, all of a sudden the space station's 375 kilometers east of where you are on the ground, and it takes a tremendous amount of propellant to make up that kind of error. So that's one of the challenges why orbital dynamics is important. You've got to know when you're going to launch, where you're headed. A lot of people care where the sun is when you get into orbit. If you have got solar rays, then you need power right away on a satellite. So orbital dynamics, another great thing to study in school, because if you don't know where you're going to go and how to get there, you won't get there.
Yeah, John, you've been talking a lot about all the things that go into, designing and building a rocket that can do all the things that we've been doing, flying to orbit, taking payloads to orbit, taking humans to orbit. We've got a lot of history and a lot of things that we've learned. We didn't do this by ourselves. We worked very closely with NASA, and we've learned so much from them. We wouldn't be here today without the support of NASA and the knowledge that they have. Can you talk a little bit about things like the particular things that NASA has brought to the team?
Yeah, that NASA partnership goes way back. I joined SpaceX 2006, right when we were competing for what was called the COTS Space Act Agreement, the Commercial Orbital Transportation Service, where NASA said, hey, we can't pay companies to develop systems from scratch, but we can give you essentially some seed money. So they had a competition. SpaceX was one of the winners. Elon put a lot of his money in. But working with NASA on the early Falcon 9 and the Dragon, we learned things like, what are some of the best practices? A lot of our engineers would pull off of the NASA tech library, how do you do hold down systems or quick disconnect systems? What's worked in the past? So we essentially got to leverage that, all those lessons learned from decades by NASA. And then we learned things like, okay, we're gonna send cargo to the space station. What does it mean to physically touch the space station? What are the requirements? Then how do you verify them to NASA? It's like somebody wants to bring a big truck into your garage and you know that your garage door is only so high. You're not just gonna let them drive in, you're gonna go measure that before it happens.
Yeah.
So we went from that, we took astronauts to the space station. Each step of the way, NASA's been helping us understand what it means to get into space, what are some of those requirements that we've leveraged to do human spaceflight that you see here today.
Yeah, it is super exciting. Again, we've been learning a lot from NASA throughout the years. Kate has a very special guest interview. Kate, I'll throw it to you.
Thanks, Andy. Joining us now from Cape Canaveral is none other than Charlie Bolden, former NASA astronaut and administrator. Welcome.
Kate, it's great to be with you, and I was enjoying listening to the story, and I think you all are being somewhat modest. We learned quite a bit from SpaceX as we began to partner also.
Thank you so much for that. Now, Charlie, like I mentioned, you were a NASA astronaut that then became the NASA administrator, and that happened at a pivotal time both in the history of NASA and commercial space. Were either one of those roles something that you dreamed of doing as a kid?
No, as a matter of fact, I tell kids all the time, I never dreamed of being an astronaut because I grew up in the segregated South, and that was just not something that was going to happen. I had no desire to fly airplanes. I thought flying was inherently dangerous. But at the age of 12 in 7th grade, I fell in love with a place called the United States Naval Academy, watching a program on television called Men of Annapolis. And I struggled to get there, and when I finally got there, that led to my going into the Marine Corps, which led to my going to flight school, which led to my going to test pilot school, which led to my meeting the late, great Dr. Ron McNair, who was in the first group of space shuttle astronauts selected. And he's the guy that embarrassed me into applying for the space program. So I kind of fell into it. I don't recommend that kids follow my example, though.
Well, it sounds like you've had quite the journey throughout your career. And speaking of journeys, we talked a little bit earlier about the history of Pad 39A, which we see over your shoulder there in the distance. How does space travel look different from the days when you were an astronaut compared to the last 10 years or so?
Kate, I think it's dramatically different. I mean, the techniques, the orbital mechanics, everything, all the laws and everything are the same, but it's the face of space flight today that is dramatically different. I'm so excited to be here this evening for this launch because, I was telling somebody earlier today, just the thought of having an all-commercial crew, a crew of non-professional astronauts lift off from the same launch pad where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin left before they stepped on the moon is just flabbergasting. It's sort of it's the complete cycle of a tale to get us from where it was nothing but government to where now we can actually have an all-civilian, all-commercial flight where NASA's really not involved at all, other than being the host here at the Kennedy Space Center.
And we're so thankful that you guys are able to host us. Now, if SpaceX were hosting you on today's mission, imagine if you were part of the Inspiration 4 crew. What 2 or 3 personal items would you want to take with you?
I love listening to each of the crew members talk about what they took, and on each of my flights, my very first flight, as a matter of fact, since I didn't know whether there would be any more, I took a ring that had belonged to my mother. I actually wore a pearl cross that she had worn since she was a child because it meant a lot to her. And I took very personal items also. If I were to go today, I now have a 12-week-old grandson, so I would have to take something that belongs to him, young Walker Elias, and I have 3. I'm blessed with 3 beautiful granddaughters. So my guess would be that at least 4 of those items would be from the 4 grandkids today.
You mentioned your grandkids. How do you imagine that the future of spaceflight might look whenever they are adults and possibly growing up to become astronauts themselves?
Oh. Kate, I am firmly convinced that by the time Walker, who's the baby now, the 12-week-old, by the time he gets ready to go to space, we're going to be talking about, going to the moon will be, routine is not a word I like to use, so let's not do that, but it will be a place where we go with some frequency, and we'll be venturing off to Mars also. So I think there's a very good chance that probably Walker and maybe my baby granddaughter Talia will.
This is going to be extremely mushy of me, so I apologize in advance. But today would have been my brother's 44th birthday. He passed away 4 years ago, and I would take my brother with me. I would take some of his ashes. So yeah. Anyway, mush over.
And they are 2 areas that we should not overlook as we talk about STEM education. But the arts and design are what gives us as an example, the wonderful spacesuits that the crew is wearing today. Some designer actually sat down and thought about that. That's not aerodynamic. That's actually a little arts and design there. So I think the world is the oyster for my grandchildren, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You add the A into STEM and you get STEAM, right? Now, years ago at
Exactly right.
years ago at a joint SpaceX NASA launch, you gave observers some really great advice, and that was to put their phones down and watch the launch with their own eyes and just really enjoy the experience. Now, with our Inspiration 4 crew sitting in their seats, what advice would you give to those civilian astronauts as they are preparing to go to space for the first time?
You know, believe it or not, I sent Jared a text a few days ago, and then I had an opportunity to say hello to them before they walked out today. And my advice to them was relax, enjoy it, suck it up, really spend time in the window to look at the incredible beauty of our planet from a perspective that not very many humans will have had. You know, we've flown 500 and some odd humans to space, but as you all keep pointing out, when I flew my Hubble Space Telescope mission, we were at 600 kilometers, and that was a view that only people who had gone to the moon had had before, and we've not had any views like that since because we've just not gone that high. They are going to be in a unique position looking at this planet from almost 600 kilometers, and it's breathtakingly different from looking on board.
I agree with Griffin, though. I'm wondering what all of you would like to take to space with you if you could take something. And yeah, let me know in the comments. Or not comments. In the stream chat. Been watching too much YouTube.
Just hope they'll take an opportunity to suck it up and enjoy it and visualize it so they can tell stories about it to their children and grandchildren and to every kid they meet when they come back, because that's actually the most important role for an astronaut is to become storytellers and help people understand why it's important to take care of our planet and why we're running out of time, and we've got to be better stewards of the planet. So I'm excited for them to have this opportunity.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As the mission name indicates, one of the primary functions of this mission is to inspire others. So you hit the nail on the head there for sure.
Exactly.
Charlie Bolden, former NASA administrator and NASA astronaut, thank you so much for joining us today. Back over to Jesse as we continue to tick down to T0.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Charlie Bolden. That was an incredible interview and great to hear from him, our partners at NASA. It's just so great. You know, teamwork really makes the dream work. So if you're just now joining us, you picked a great time as we are approximately T-minus 56 minutes and counting until launch. Welcome to the coverage for the mission known as Inspiration 4, the first all-civilian mission to space. Liftoff time is still holding for 8:02 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're tracking no issues with Falcon 9 or Dragon. The range is green, the weather is cooperating. Over the last 3 hours, Jared Isaacman, Dr. Cyan Proctor, Haley Arsenault, and Chris Sombroski donned their SpaceX spacesuits in our brand new SpaceX suit-up room, and were then transported to the pad where our crew entered the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft, which you've been seeing live on your screen the past few hours.
Yeah, but before we go any further, we have to get reacquainted with our crew. Let's take a moment and learn a little bit more about Jared. He is a 38-year-old Inspiration 4 commander. He is the founder and chief executive officer of Shift 4 Payments, a father and husband, and has set multiple world records as a pilot. When he was younger, Jared flew in over 100 air shows and dedicated every performance flight to great causes, and today is no different. This mission is named Inspiration 4 in recognition of the 4-person crew's mission to inspire support for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Jared has donated $100 million himself and is hoping to raise another $100 million to support the nonprofit organization. This $200 million goal for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital would not be possible without Jared's dedication to a greater cause. Here's more about the New Jersey native and self-described aviation and aerospace fan.
I grew up in New Jersey, and when I was a kid, I wanted to grow up and be a doctor. My older brother's a doctor. I watched like the show ER as a kid, and I thought that's pretty cool. I think, you know, saving lives is a pretty important thing. But, you know, life took me in a different direction. My interest in like aviation and aerospace goes back like since I was a kid. I mean, you know, the first like computer I built, I was playing like Falcon 2.0 and then, you know, upgraded to play Falcon 3.0. I went to like Aviation Challenge, which is part of Space Camp as a kid. I was a, you know, observer of SpaceX from like, you know, the outside looking in like a lot of people. And then, you know, my opportunity to kind of see what the inside was like began in October of 2020 when the idea of Inspiration 4 started to come about. A big part of what we're trying to achieve with Inspiration 4 is to send, you know, an inspiring message really to the world about what is certainly possible up there in space, but also what we can accomplish here on Earth as well, which is why, you know, this massive fundraising effort for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is such a big part of our mission. To me, having some balance where you're trying to tackle a problem of today so you can earn the right to keep making progress tomorrow is just a philosophy I've tried to live by for some time. The advice I would give my younger self, you can aim high, you can dream big, and even things that people would say is next to impossible, you can accomplish it. I totally believe like we all have, you know, that fundamental obligation to leave the world a better place than we found it. I'm Jared Isaacman, and I'm the commander of Inspiration 4.
For this first all-civilian mission to orbit, Jared wanted his crewmates to represent the best of humanity, pillars he's identified as leadership, hope, generosity, and prosperity. As commander of the mission, Jared holds the seat of leadership. For the seat of hope, Jared went to St. Jude and was introduced to Haley Arsenault.
Haley is from Memphis, Tennessee, and serves as the medical officer of the Inspiration 4 mission, overseeing medical care and experiments. When she was 10, she was diagnosed with bone cancer. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital helps her with groundbreaking treatment, including chemotherapy and limb-sparing surgery that resulted in replacing her femur bone with a prosthetic. Now she is currently a physician's assistant at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, the same place that saved her life so many years ago. At 29 years old, she represents a couple of firsts for this mission that's already the first civilian mission to go into space. Haley will be the youngest American to go into space and the first person to go into space with a prosthetic body part. Here is more on Haley, who occupies the seat of hope on the Inspiration 4 mission.
I'm so excited to be going to space, and I'm just a regular person. I am so lucky that I got a phone call asking if I wanted to go to space. I'm from Louisiana. I was a super active, super outgoing kid, involved in everything, and I actually had just gotten my black belt in Taekwondo a couple days before I was diagnosed with cancer. I definitely am excited to represent those that aren't physically perfect. I want to bring this experience back and share with everyone I encounter, and just what this represents for the new age in space travel and who can be an astronaut. I've thought a lot about launch day. I've even had some dreams about launch day, and I still don't know what will be going through my mind. I know I'm gonna be incredibly excited. And of course, I have the window seat. Looking out the window and seeing Earth from space is going to be so incredible. Can't even put into words. What I'm absolutely most excited about is we're gonna call the St. Jude patients from space. And I'll get to video call these kids that I've gotten to treat, and these kids going through cancer treatment and getting to show them what life after cancer can look like. It's been incredible for me to watch how much this mission has already touched the kids at St. Jude and how much hope it's given them. I loved this one little girl I talked to recently. She said, I can't wait to be an astronaut. Like, there was no if in there. She just couldn't wait for it to happen. I think that's what hope is. I am Haley Arsenault, Medical Officer of Inspiration 4.
As part of the effort to raise money for St. Jude, Jared decided to give away one seat to a person at random who donated to St. Jude's cause. That seat, the seat of generosity, went to Christopher Sombroski. Christopher Sombroski of Seattle, Washington is the mission specialist of today's flight, helping to manage payloads, science experiments, and communications to mission control. He is a 42-year-old mechanical and diagnostics lead at Lockheed Martin and a United States Air Force veteran. As an amateur astronomer, he grew up with a natural curiosity about outer space and even worked as a U.S. space camp counselor. He was awarded the Seat of Generosity after contributing to a special fundraising campaign for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Let's meet Chris, the inspiration for...
At 56.80, the propellant load go, no-go poll is now open.
Sian, dancing in the dragon. We're a propellant go, no-go. They're preparing.
Let's meet Chris, the inspiration for mission specialist.
When I found out I was going to space, I was dumbfounded. I think I was just struck dumb for days. The seed was planted for me to fall in love with space when I was little and started launching little rockets in my front yard with my dad, the first of which is still probably stuck in a Florida pine tree somewhere. But when I first saw a space shuttle launch in person from the causeway, 6 to 8 miles away, you could still feel that rumble pounding through your chest. That kind of just shifted my foundation a little bit, and I knew from there on out I had to be somehow a part of space. Whether it was helping support a mission or lobbying for folks to be able to go into space, that's where I wanted to be. Of course, I'm going to be looking down at my home in Western Washington. I'm also looking to see what I don't see, and that's going to be lines on a map or those walls that seem to separate all of us ideologically or politically or even geographically or physically. Those don't exist when you get far enough out, and I'm really hoping to bring back that sense of what it means to only have that one small line that matters to all of us, and that's the atmosphere that keeps us separated from the vacuum of space. As we get to launch day, I am gonna have the biggest smile going ear to ear. It's gonna be, I'm gonna be shaking with excitement. No fears or jitters at all about what's going to happen, but man, that's going to be a heck of a show. I'm Chris Sombroski, mission specialist of Inspiration 4.
Jared reserved the 4th seat for someone who exemplified the entrepreneurial spirit. This 4th seat, representing prosperity, was awarded to Dr. Cyan Proctor. She is from Tempe, Arizona, and serves as the pilot for today's mission. She's 51 years old, is an entrepreneur, an educator, poet, artist, and active voice in the space exploration community. She's passionate about encouraging others to use their unique space to inspire those within their reach and beyond as part of her Space to Inspire motto. Dr. Cyan was awarded the Seat of Prosperity after being selected as the top entrant of an independently judged online business competition conducted by the Shift4Shop e-commerce platform. Here's more about Dr. Proctor and her love of exploring planet Earth.
The day of launch, I'm going to be thinking about how my entire life has led up to this moment. I was born on the island of Guam, and the reason why I was born there is that my dad worked for the NASA tracking station. And so I feel like space has always been a part of me. When I got that call, that Zoom, and Jared was on there and he said that, they picked me for the prosperity seat, that I was going to go to space with him and be part of the Inspiration 4, it really was like getting the golden ticket for Willy Wonka. Everything in my life finally came into focus, and I realized that it was all about this moment in time. I won the prosperity seat for Inspiration 4, and I did that not as a geoscientist or an explorer or an analog astronaut, which are all on my resume. I actually won this as a poet and an artist. We are striving for that Star Trek generation, that idea of a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive space, or a Jedi space. I'm gonna be the first Black female pilot of a spacecraft ever. And to me, that just blows me away. And I wanna encourage the next generation to dream that this is possible. And a Jedi space, that's what that's about. I'm Dr. Cyan Proctor, and I'm the mission pilot for Inspiration 4.
Coming up on T-minus 45 minutes, we're waiting for the launch director to give instructions to the team.
Right. The team is ready for crew access arm, propellant load, and launch. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD, and they'll approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net.
Ready?
Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence
Things are gonna
immediately
come fast
and
now.
proceed into the launch abort sequence. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. In the event of a fire alarm, key operators will remain at their post while the alarm is evaluated. In the event that personnel safety is threatened, evacuate to the south-facing emergency exit, which leads directly outside. Launch control, you may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
There you've heard the instructions and a great view from the camera on the fixed service structure looking down the crew arm. SpaceX team has been pulled. 7 operators on Falcon 9 in firing room 4 at Kennedy Space Center have indicated they are go for propellant load of the Falcon 9 and launch. The crew is given a go. The Dragon team's given a go. We're moving into the next of the major steps, retracting the crew access arm. This will take a couple of minutes. We're going to follow that by arming the launch escape system, and then at T-minus 35 minutes, begin propellant load of the Falcon 9. And sharing in the background here at Hawthorne, keep watching the arm moving away as we get deeper into the countdown. Weather continues to be good for Falcon 9 launch. Range is ready to support. All systems remain green and go.
I'm excited. So you can see the crew access arm is retracting away from the spacecraft here. So this means that once they start propellant loading, they'll be able to abort away from the pad if they have to.
Arm continuing to move away. Once it's in position, we ought to hear the instructions to the crew to close and lock their visors, and then arm the escape system on the Dragon spacecraft.
The countdown clock is continuing to tick, and we are now at T-minus 42 minutes from launch. We're standing by the crew arm.
Why can I not hear? Can you hear me, David? Hello? Why can I not hear you either? What's going on? Just a moment, folks. Trying to fix things.
Nope, that's me. That's on my end.
Okay, perfect. All right, just give me a moment here, and I will get David on the stream. Can you hear David? Say hi, David.
Hi, David. Hello, David. Hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you?
Oh, of course it's not working now. Just a moment. Oh, that's why. Just doing some fixing on the stream here. I'm going to turn the audio back on for the stream.
Yeah, John, you mentioned the launch
no
escape
worries.
system, and
Launch escape system is verified armed.
Launch escape system's armed.
And there's that call out. The launch.
Captain SpaceX, we're closing out for 4.100.
Copy that, Dragon.
Launch escape system armed.
There's
Setting
that
times,
call out.
you
The
know?
launch escape system is now armed.
I mean, this is
and
fantastic.
Again, this is the first of its
yep.
kind escape system to provide this escape capability all the way to orbit.
we go.
You can hear the team here is getting really excited as we march towards T0.
So the launch escape
I gotta
system,
say,
let's talk
I
a little
love
bit
their,
more
like,
about that. It
horse riding
utilizes,
boots.
the Super Draco engines
Right.
that are installed into the Dragon capsule.
Okay, you are now in your proper frame there, David.
There are 8 of them.
We are 40 minutes until launch, and from now until launch
There
is
are 8
pretty
Super Draco engines
pretty intense.
on the Dragon capsule, and they're aptly named Super Dracos. They differ
Falcon
from the
9's
regular
about to start
Dracos
breathing.
Just a little bit.
This
The
is-
Draco
this is
engines that are on the Dragon that help in
terrifying.
in-orbit maneuvers. Those produce about
Totally
90
terrifying.
pounds of force
And I
in the
wanna go.
vacuum space. A single Super
No,
Draco
thank
engine
you.
produces 15,000 pounds of force.
Now you'd
and
come
so
with me, wouldn't you?
altogether, it produces over 120,000 pounds of force.
Nope.
And that is what is needed in case of an emergency to accelerate the Dragon capsule and crew away from any type of emergency.
Exactly. And like you said, those Super Dracos are just super powered Draco engines. And the only time they are ever utilized is in that launch abort procedure. So we are not expecting to use them today, but we do
Yes.
take
No,
safety
please.
very
I don't wanna
seriously.
use the launch
And
abort
we take every
system
measure
today.
possible to ensure that the crew has options and has an escape in the worst of scenarios.
Wow.
And like Jesse mentioned before, it's the first of its kind and provides.
Now, they did a
escape
bunch of tests
capability
with
for
that
the crew
abort
all the way
system,
to
but-
orbit.
Oh man.
Yes, so that launch escape system is
This is the
currently
first
armed.
time I'm
Once in
seeing
orbit,
the
we
rocket
actually,
today.
Disarm that, and we'll be relying only on the Draco.
I love
This is
how
the boosters
Now, next
third
up,
flight.
we will be having.
I love
again,
how, like,
and this is basically when
used
when
it looks.
Falcon comes alive.
Second
we
flight
begin
for
to
the
load liquid
spacecraft, too.
oxygen and rocket
Yep.
grade kerosene, also known as RP1, into
This
both the
spacecraft
first
flew
and second
the
stages.
Crew 1 mission.
Dragon is already
year.
fully loaded. The fuels for Dragon, the hypergulls, get fully loaded down the street from Pad 39A a week or two in advance to
Yeah, I
launch.
agree,
so
Admiral
it's already
Kusanagi.
locked and loaded. Up
It
next
makes
is the
so
prop
much
load
sense
for
to me
Falcon 9.
to have the astronauts on board.
One thing
and
while
then
we've
lo-
got a
and
moment,
then
we were
fuel
talking about Super
afterwards while
Dracos
the
and
launch escape
contingency
system
aborts.
is armed.
You will
Loading
hear
people
call-outs
onto a
probably during
fueled
the
rocket is
ascent, stage 1A, stage 2A,
Scary. I don't know why
stage
they did
1A.
it like that for so long.
venting for propellant load.
That just means various points in time, if an escape was necessary.
Well, wasn't that a problem with
Dragon
the
flight computer is programmed to do different things.
the Russian
How long
rockets?
the engines will burn,
Like 2 or 3
how
years
long
ago,
it'll wait
didn't
for
they have
the
one that?
empathy, what it'll do to come back down when the parachutes are deployed. So when you hear those, it's usually the crew giving the call out and the ground
I don't
echoing
remember
it.
a specific
That
problem
just
like that. I
indicates
mean,
we
they
are
had- they
moving
had a
farther and
launch
farther
escape
away
that
from
they
the
had
launch
to do.
pad. And so
Yeah.
It was, but it was part way to
different
orbit.
sequences would be performed in the
But
Dragon.
hadn't they like only recently added the automated ability for their launch escape? Like, wasn't it manual before that or something? I seem to remember.
Minus 36 minutes, 26
Yeah,
seconds.
the
Everything
Russians tend to
continues
favor
look
manual
good.
aborts more
For
than
Crew
auto
Dragon's
aborts.
fourth launch with people.
I'm
Today,
not
the
sure
first
exactly how that all
all-civil
works,
mission
but-
to low Earth
But
orbit.
they don't do a lot of auto aborting.
That frightens me.
Now we should hear a call out.
Hey, Darsh, how's it going?
35 minutes. When propellant load begins.
Hello, everyone.
Hey,
It's a David.
Loading
hey,
will
Abdi
start
Ohan.
on the first stage with liquid oxygen and RP1
I like just the
kerosene
very
fuel.
simple, like,
We'll also begin loading
Inspiration 4
kerosene
logo is
fuel
just a
on the
circle
second
with the 4.
stage. And it'll take us a little bit deeper into the countdown before we put liquid oxygen onto the second stage.
Oh,
And everything wraps up inside the last 10 minutes with the very last propellant finishing up.
and they're going to be there for 3 days, eh?
3 days on orbit. Yep.
So there on your screen is the Falcon 9 rocket at pad 39A, and at the very top is the Crew Dragon capsule where the Inspiration 4 crew awaits liftoff in just about 35
I've heard a few
minutes.
people
I
say
mean-
that,
Just joining
actually.
us, this is the first
You're not wrong.
Dragon mission to orbit.
Totally.
AKA,
Totally.
these are
Totally.
non-professional astronauts. They're people like you and
I mean,
me
isn't it
that
the
are,
right-
they're
or
going
wait.
to be going up to 575
Yeah.
kilometers, and they're
4
going
of
to be
them.
orbiting Earth there at that altitude for 3 whole days. So you can hear the voices in the background here that are
Man, the
getting a
tower
little
looks so
louder.
pr-
The
they did such
excitement
a
in the
good
building
job
here
of,
at SpaceX
redoing the
headquarters
tower. It
is
looks so
certainly
nice.
growing.
Propellant load has
Yeah.
started.
especially
looks
with
cool.
that ball right
Propellant
there.
load
And
has
the
begun.
arm.
We're inside T-minus 35 minutes. We are
we go.
right on time. Propellant load start call out has begun. the fill and drain valves for the first and second stage fuel tanks and the first stage liquid oxygen tank now coming
3
open.
days.
Now piston pumps beginning to push the propellant into the Falcon 9. As we said, that'll continue all the way down to T-minus 2 minutes.
It's going to be a gorgeous launch
bring
start.
status as we
Look
go
at
through
the
the
weather.
countdown.
Oh, man.
But currently,
Just perfect.
everything looking good.
Bezos got what, like
39A for the launch
90
of
seconds, and these
crew,
guys get 3
just over
days?
34 minutes.
Yeah, that's about right.
Fuck it, Bezos.
Our crews, like Kate mentioned,
Also
are
true.
at the top of the vehicle, sitting inside of the Dragon capsule.
Yeah, it's 30
Jared,
minutes after
Cyan, Haley,
sunset,
and Chris
and,
have been training for
it's
this
gonna
journey
look
pretty much
amazing.
ever since the announcement.
Oh, that's gonna
They'd
be.
all been selected
I
as
can't wait to
crewmates for
see the
Inspiration
like
4 mission in March.
The,
the
like,
photography that comes out of this.
They're probably going to get like that nebula effect in the
as our
sky
NASA
as
astronauts.
they go.
In order to get
It's
to
gonna be
visit
really cool.
Earth orbit, our teams at SpaceX have spent hundreds of hours teaching the crew about orbital mechanics, how to live in
Pretty
space and
amazing that they've
microgravity,
stuck this,
and even running
this launch date for
simulations
so
of what
long.
a full mission would look
this
like
mission did
while
not
seated
slip.
inside
This
of
has been the
Dragon.
launch date for over 4
Yeah,
months.
the Inspiration 4 crew has completed numerous
And the
simulations,
weather is
including a
surprisingly
30-hour and
cooperative, too.
12-hour end-to-end simulation in our Dragon trainer.
Yeah, very lucky.
They trained not only at SpaceX, but they also did a few other trainings,
Yep, I will
centrifuge
boost my mic.
training. They flew some fighter jets together, did some aerobatics in these jets, some flips, and experienced some real G's before this mission today.
Yeah, they
Is that
even
better, Darch?
got to
Am I loud enough
pilot
now?
the jets themselves,
Yeah.
which was super cool to see.
They also completed a zero-G
Personally,
flight, which you
I'd
can
bring
see
a
them
lot of
there,
beer.
Almost like superheroes. They even climbed
How much
Mount
is a lot?
Rainier in Washington, which looks like a very difficult hike.
Yes, I think during the docu-series, it was almost a whiteout condition, but they kept trekking along. It was almost 10 hours of hiking, 4,000 plus feet elevation.
Is this,
one of the serious
is this
hikes,
loud enough now?
that you can do up in Washington.
Mr. Darginator?
Yeah, some great
I'm
team
getting
building,
into the red
and they
on my
even signed their Falcon 9 booster
my
that is sitting on the pad,
gauge
and that
here.
is them.
I
with
can
their
also turn me
signatures
down.
on the vehicle that
Okay.
they will be lifting
Darge
off
says
Turn
it's
me
better.
down a little
in
bit.
just
Oh,
over
David is
30
speaking?
minutes from
Okay.
now. This team has
Let's see if that
studied
fixes
nearly
it.
100 different training lessons covering all aspects of the mission. At the end of training each week, the crew recorded video diaries of their experiences.
Yeah, watching the
In their
Netflix
own
documentary,
words, here's
that
the crew
that
talking
climb
about their
of Rainier
various
seemed
training over the last
rough.
6 months.
Jared Isaacman here, Commander Inspiration 4, and
That's
we're
awesome.
like 4 months and a day away from our intended launch date.
This week was really intense because
I love
we
the
had
art in the
such a
background
cool
of this set.
systems. We got to
I
go
love
into
it.
the sim.
Going through some CRM training
Still concept
and
art?
looking at what the mission overview is going to look
From
like.
when they were
Holy shit.
designing Dragon.
And the SpaceX
Which are you
culture.
watching?
Week 2 of training at
The only
SpaceX
one?
complete.
This is the
The
SpaceX.
SpaceX?
This is a heavy week.
I
Okay.
just completed another
I think I might
week
just
at
be behind.
SpaceX, and it
Oh,
was
yeah, sorry.
intense.
A lot of good
I have a
building
trick for you.
blocks.
Turn
you
your
start
speed
in the
to
beginning of the week
2
with smaller
times,
things
wait
like
for it to
using
catch up,
comms
then you go
to,
like a
okay,
minute
so
ahead
some
of what the,
circumstances are,
you catch
are
up to
not
the
so
video.
good, and then some get really bad where you have to, plan an emergency deorbit, which we initiate ourselves.
It's a
and
cool
that-
trick.
But man, challenging.
Let's see if we
I didn't
can see if we've
realize
lost any
how much
time over
upper
the last
body
couple hours
strength I
here.
need, so I need to hit the gym in a couple of months and build up some more muscles.
Oh, I was only two seconds behind.
Today was my favorite day of training because
What's your
today was a
T-minus?
medical training day.
Learn some more
31,
about some of the medical experiments we're
30,
going to be working
55.
with, and helping to advance what we know about humans in spaceflight.
We've all contributed all sorts of fluids now
Okay.
To the greater
30,
scientific
40.
But the
Two.
best part
Yep.
is
Yep,
we
we're
all
at the
got
same
in
spot.
our spacesuits
Excellent.
together.
We got to wear spacesuits.
Hey, Mad Style United.
Strap into the simulator.
Or Unlimited,
and
sorry, not
feel like we
United.
were actually going to space.
I just noticed there, and I don't know if
Hello again,
it's
Chris
what
here.
she did, but
And
she
it's,
had
August 2nd, 2021, 44
a
44
bandage
days
on her
from
one finger.
September. Everything keeps
And
going.
or like it almost
And,
looked like electrical tape, and I'm wondering if that's the same finger she signed the booster with to
Maybe.
keep it there until.
Fitted for
That would be funny.
about 7 months ago. I actually
I would do that.
see and try on and do a bunch of maneuvers in to make sure that it's comfortable and then I can move.
Face to face, that's a good plan.
I am just so excited for this.
That's a great plan.
I mean, this is the spacesuit I'm going to wear.
We're under
leaving
30
the
minutes,
planet.
folks, until the launch of Inspiration 4.
I'm just so honored and thankful and grateful to be a part of this historic mission and a part of the SpaceX team.
Y'all are working so hard to get to Mars and beyond. We want to provide great data, and we're really excited to be part of this.
All right, well,
Darsh,
thanks everybody for
11.
a fantastic time here in Hawthorne.
11.
And also down at Kennedy. We've been doing training down there as well. So really appreciate everything you guys been doing.
This is my final call here from SpaceX. So Rook signing off.
So incredible to get an inside look to their training. Only 553 humans have been to orbit, and most of those traveled as part of government or country-specific missions. As a result, the research conducted on those missions, particularly as it relates to humans in space, is often only accessible by the country or government that conducted the research. Think about the possibilities if the data from all those missions could be made available to the broader science community for research. Inspiration 4 is a step in that direction.
The crew of Inspiration 4 will conduct research in orbit that has the potential to improve.
Did I
human health
disappear?
here on
You
Earth
did disappear
and
because
for
I did
future
a
space explorers. One of the
My
cool
bad.
things about this
yeah, you
mission
can't.
is that all
I know. I'm aware.
biomedical data collected during
I
the
make
mission,
mistakes
things
sometimes.
like heart rhythm rate,
don't worry, I
blood
do all the
oxygen
time.
saturation, among other things, will be accessible.
Sometimes
for
I forget I
research.
can't use
And to
Discord and I
that
have to use
end,
my phone when I'm doing
SpaceX and the
this.
Inspiration 4 crew are partnering with TRISH, the Translational Research Institute for Space Health, to collect data and biological samples from the crew before, during, and after this historic space flight. Part of NASA's Human Research Program, TRISH is a virtual institute that finds and funds disruptive science and medical technology in order to reduce health and performance risks in space explorers.
Yeah, we saw Kate with Diana earlier putting on some really colorful sunglasses. They're not really sunglasses, but it was an experiment about how do we understand motion sickness and sort of the ups and downs in space. That is something I'm super excited about because I get a lot of motion sickness here, and so I'm hoping that it helps a lot of people.
Cool to see firsthand some of the equipment that the crew has in their cargo hold.
Hey, Frankie
like
Hollywood
we've said before,
666.
this is a
Hey,
science
space
mission
friends.
in addition to it's a 3-day science mission basically. And one of the other things that Diana showed us was the ultrasound reader and how the
that
intracranial
ultrasound is
fluid
so cool.
changes while you're in space. So lack of gravity
What's that?
essentially means that instead of the fluids
One of the things they're
in your
testing on
body
orbit
being
is a
concentrated towards your feet, they
portable
kinda
ultrasound
they
scanner
equalize towards
that
your
plugs
head, which
into your
can affect
phone,
vision.
and you can buy them. They're
And they are
$2,500.
planning to use that
Oh.
ultrasound reader, which they just plug
David,
right into an
ultrasound
iPad
machines
to
are like
read
$100,000.
readings live inside Crew Dragon.
Like minimum.
of
Okay.
their eyeballs while they're in space for 3
That's
days.
pretty good.
Having one that can plug into your phone and is $2,500
In
is
addition to all the
insane.
awesome science going up on today's mission, the Inspiration 4
so
team
cool.
is using this mission to bring
I do
awareness
remember
and
reading
help
like
fundraise
5 or
for
10
St.
years
Jude
ago
Children's
one of those
Research
like,
Hospital.
why
The
don't we
Children's
have
Research
this
Hospital
tech
opened
yet?
in Memphis,
Of
Tennessee
why
in
don't we have Star
1962,
Trek's
and ever
like
since has been committed to
medical
finding
scanners?
cures
Yeah.
for kids with cancer and other life-threatening diseases,
Working on it.
regardless of their socioeconomic status, race, belief, or ethnicity.
Yeah.
St. Jude has invented treatments that help to push the overall childhood cancer survival rate from 20% to more than 80% in the United States. In developing countries, that number is unfortunately not that high, with fewer than 1 in 5 children with cancer surviving. St. Jude has a bold mission to change that.
The Inspiration 4 mission is part of an ambitious fundraising goal to give hope to all kids with
Fuck
cancer
cancer.
and other life-threatening
Agreed.
diseases. The goal is to raise $200 million for St. Jude. Jared already
One of my
committed
brothers passed
$100
away
million.
from childhood cancer.
Jared already committed $100 million of
1970s.
his own money, and the team has raised
Wow.
about $30 million so far.
Shit.
But we still have a ways to
That's-
go.
yeah.
If
We've
you're
come a long
watching
way.
on YouTube, you'll notice that there's
We
a
have.
donation
Thanks
button where you
to
can make your own
organizations like
contribution.
St. Jude.
Any amount, big or small, makes a big difference, and it's super easy
Both my
to
mother
do.
and
So
my wife
go ahead and click
are
the donate
cancer
button
survivors.
and give what you can to help save a child's life.
Yay.
Beyond the good this mission will do for science and childhood cancer, this mission is also exciting because it's the debut of the new Dragon Cupola.
Cupola!
We have some footages here of the cupola.
Can't wait for the cupola.
It is going to be the largest
You were freezing, too.
continuous
I can start
window
doing
in
that.
space ever by a factor of 2.
Probably.
And has over 2,000
Just a
square
bit,
inches
just a blip.
of viewing area.
There's the cupola.
Yeah, and there's
So
a lot
cool.
that went
That's so
into
cool.
the design.
Sorry to
for
hear that,
this.
Darsh.
You know, this is going to outer space, so it needs to be designed
Like
and
super
tested
serious,
for
even
you know,
before
all the loads that
ultrasound
it will
goes
see while it's out in space. It's a great view to look out of, but it also needs to act as a fully functioning portion of the spacecraft.
Yeah, we were talking about reusability earlier, and this capsule is being used for the second time on this mission. It previously supported the Crew 1 mission in November of last year, but this cupola is brand new to this capsule, brand new to SpaceX. We're debuting it on this mission,
Amazing.
and it is there's a view of it there in an anechoic chamber, and
Oh,
it's
so cool.
just incredible that
Quite cool.
we're basically gonna have 360
Look at this.
views of space from the forward hatch there of the Crew Dragon capsule. And this is an animation showing how its position in Crew Dragon is a little different. So Crew Dragon used to dock autonomously, or does dock autonomously to the International Space Station, that port there being underneath the nose cone, and that was removed, and for this mission is now replaced by the cupola, as we just saw. So super cool new piece of hardware that I'm so stoked to see launch here.
As we await T0 in about 23 minutes, the ground operations teams are doing a series of system checks to make sure both Dragon and Falcon 9
20 minutes.
are ready for launch. Let's take a look at what the ascent portion of the mission will look like.
Once we hit T0, we will watch Falcon 9 and
Now,
Dragon
Eric,
lift off
I have a
from
question.
Launch Pad
have an answer.
39A and make their ascent.
I hope so.
At about 50
So-
seconds into flight, Falcon 9's engines will throttle down to
NASA's
help pass
data that
through
they
the maximum
recover
dynamic pressure on the
is
rocket,
public.
or what we typically refer to
Correct?
as max Q. And it's worth noting that once we hit max Q,
Yes,
the vehicle
not
will
always
be going
immediately, but yes.
supersonic.
Not
Once we
immediately,
are
but they
through
make
the
all
period
of their
of
data
maximum
public
dynamic pressure,
eventually.
We can throttle
Yep.
up our own engines again. From
Now,
here,
one of the things they were
there are
talking about was
we are
how
about 2.5 minutes into flight, and we have a series of 3 events that happen in
that's
rapid
not the
succession.
case for
First
all
is
countries.
MECO
I
or main
Yep.
engine
doubt that
cutoff. This
Russia
is where
and
all
China
9
make
Merlin
their data
engines shut off.
public.
In
They make
fact,
it
Um,
public
we're
when
set for
when
stage
they decide
separation.
to.
Stage
Yeah, when it's
separation is where
convenient.
the first stage detaches from the
Is
second
all
stage.
the data from
The
this
first
mission
stage
going to be
making its
made
way
public?
back to Earth for landing,
Do we know?
as the second stage continues
Public,
on
I'm
its
not
journey
entirely
with the third
sure.
event.
They
Which is
partnered with an
SCS-1 or
organization to
second
do
engine
a
start
lot
one,
of
and
the
that
health
is
research.
where the Merlin vacuum engine on the second
on
stage
them.
lights up and
I'm
propels
not
the second stage
100%
along with
sure
our Inspiration
about
4
those
crew
agreements.
to orbit. As Stage 2 heads towards its targeted drop-off
But I mean,
orbit,
it is
Stage
not
1
a
will
NASA
execute
launch,
2
so
burns
they
in order
aren't
to make its
bound
way
by the
back to
government
Earth.
agreements.
The first
that
is
they
the
normally
entry
would
burn,
be.
which is where 3
Yeah.
of those 9 Merlin 1D engines will reignite and then shut down, and that'll help.
Yeah,
slow
I'm
the
not.
stage down
I'm not
in
talking
preparation
about
for
like
entry back
the
into the Earth's
equipment itself, Admiral
The first
Kusanagi. I'm
stage
talking
is
more
heading
about
back
the
to Earth.
medical
The second
science, and
stage
I'm
will cut
I'm
off
Oh, the
wondering
medical
how
science
much
stuff
of
is.
engine
So the medical science stuff is all
was
going
ignited right
to
after stage
these research
separation.
organizations for
Once this
you know,
happens, we will
health
wait
research.
for confirmation.
They had a
of
whole
the
section on it
orbital
earlier
insertion.
in the broadcast.
About 90 seconds after
Okay,
Dragon
that's good.
gets into orbit, Falcon
That's
9
important.
will land back on
Yeah.
Earth. The landing burn, a single engine burn, will bring the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to land on the drone ship about 9.5 minutes into the mission.
While Falcon 9 first stage is landing, Dragon is preparing
I really
to
like these
separate
cool
from the second
animations that they
stage.
made for this.
At about 3 minutes after
They're
the second stage
really
gets
nice.
into orbit, we should have a great view of Dragon with its 4-person crew drifting away from the second stage. Once Dragon is a short distance away, it will begin checking out its Draco maneuvering thrusters to make sure Dragon continues to increase separation distance from the second stage.
It's getting very exciting here in Hawthorne. The nose cone deploy
Here we
sequence
go.
20?
will initiate just before
20
T
minutes.
plus 12 minutes and end around the T plus 15
They
minute
seem
mark.
to be happy about
We do
something.
expect to see our first glimpse
Yeah, they're
of the Dragon
probably
cupola
seeing.
in
Oh
outer
yeah,
space at this
they're starting. They're starting RP1 load for the second stage.
We've just heard it. T-minus 20 minutes, 5 seconds
Hi,
counting.
Cassie.
Stage 2 fuel load is complete. Now we're under 20 minutes to liftoff.
Oh, I just don't have
Been
him
a
showing.
wonderful day for today's Inspiration 4 mission, the first all-civilian mission to space.
Because he's on
And if you
stream.
joined us earlier in the broadcast, we had a pretty important
Yeah, I'm used to using my
question for the
webcam on stream.
Inspiration
Sorry
4
about that,
crew
Cassie.
that remains unresolved.
Hi, Eric.
For those of you who missed that, here's your chance to weigh in.
So,
If I had to choose between Star Wars,
I have another question,
Star
Eric.
Trek, and then one
Yeah.
of my other favorites is Stargate.
Oh, wait. Hang on, this is
SG-1.
important.
I would rather trek across the universe than fight my way.
I've heard, are you a Star Wars guy? Are you a Star Trek guy? Those used to be true. I really think I'm a Battlestar Galactica guy, to be honest.
There's no question it's Star Wars. Like I'm a Star Wars fan for sure.
Well, you got
I
the
would
Yoda
say
years
that
there,
if I had to
Jared, so-
guess, it's a split crew between Star Wars and Star Trek. I don't know if anyone else would have dropped Battlestar Galactica. I don't know on that one.
Can't beat Captain Adama.
I think Jared is Star Wars. Cyan is Star Wars. Chris is the wild card, but I think he's Star Wars.
Oh, Jared is definitely Star Wars. I think Chris is probably Star Trek, but I'm not 100% sure. And I would think that Haley, she's the youngest, so I think maybe Star Wars. I think Star Trek is too old for her.
Oh, I'm Star Trek.
Yes,
all the way.
Jade, it
I want to
definitely
be
does.
Bones. I kind of am a medical officer, so.
I don't know if we're like completely unified around that. I mean, there is other, sci-fi, spacey stuff that comes before Star Trek.
Okay.
They don't know they're wrong. Like that just.
Two questions now for you, Eric.
Okay.
One is, like, how much of the orbit is going to be broadcast?
Not much. Actually, almost none.
Okay.
They will have, actually, I shouldn't say none. They will have several events that happen on orbit, but unlike a NASA stream where they just stream the whole time that they're up there, they will cut in for special events, but not all of it will be live streamed. They'll be live streaming tonight. There'll be a few special events on orbit, and then they'll be live streaming their return to Earth.
Higher than the space station.
Next
higher
question.
Than the space
What's that?
telescope. For 3 days, a series of amazing
Should
views.
CIG
Jared and the team
put something
are
in
now
Star Citizen
looking through the
to commemorate
windows and the
this
cupola
launch?
up there
Yep.
on the Inspiration 4 Dragon.
Absolutely.
This crew will see about 15 orbits a day.
But I think
at
they
this
should do a lot of that type
altitude.
of thing in the long term.
They'll get to
Yeah.
experience 15 sunrises and 15 sunsets, which should be pretty incredible. And just as a comparison,
Get on it, Jake.
John mentioned the International
Yeah,
Space
Jake.
Station is going to be a little bit lower than
Stop being
where
so
this
lazy.
crew is going to. Because the International Space Station is closer, it takes a little less time to orbit the Earth, so they see 16 orbits a day relative to
This?
what this Inspiration
Yes.
4
Yes, I
crew
can.
will see will be 15 orbits a day.
I do want to comment on what we're seeing on screen.
We
This is
absolutely
the
can,
Falcon 9
Cassie.
rocket.
Launch load has started.
This is just
That was
an
called
audio
for stage
thing.
2 liquid oxygen loading. You can start to see some white clouds around Falcon 9. That is normal and expected for us
Wow.
at this stage in the countdown.
Beautiful,
we are topping
beautiful
off that
scene.
super chilled liquid oxygen.
That is-
And when it reaches the warmer
that is
ambient
glorious.
air temperatures of Florida, it starts to condense and form those clouds that you see.
Now, if you notice that the second stage there is a slightly whiter shade than the first stage, that's because the first stage has been reused twice before. It previously supported the GPS 3.4 and GPS 3.5 missions back in 2020 and 2021 of this year. So that booster is making its third flight today. The Dragon capsule is making its second flight. It previously flew on the NASA Crew 1 mission to the International
hurry,
Space
Darge.
Station. So that's why the second stage looks.
You've got 15 minutes.
There, just under
Go.
Again, if you're just
They
now
don't bring the
joining
second
us,
stage
you
back,
are
correct?
tuned in
I mean, they do,
to
but it
the first all-civilian
explodes.
mission to orbit, known as Inspiration 4.
They gotta
It's
fix
getting
that.
very exciting here. We're just
Yeah, they're
a
doing that.
little
They have
over
a thing called
T-minus
Starship.
15 minutes from
Fair
day
enough.
0.
And we started
Good point. Fair enough.
covering the action at T-4 hours.
They've been working on it,
with
spending
the crew
billions of dollars
walking
trying to
out,
fix that problem.
Of Hangar X. They made their way over to the
They need to
Falcon
launch one of
support
those again
building,
soon.
Where they got suited up.
Well, the
And
next
then we
one's
saw
going
them
to
hop
orbit.
in the
They've
Teslas, ride
been
up to the
preparing.
pad, go up the fixed service structure and walk down that
you know,
lit
if
crew
they can get the
access
permits
arm
from the
that is
FAA.
connecting Falcon 9
Wow,
to
they'll
the
get it.
tower.
Might
And
take some
it
time, but they'll get there.
It's hard to believe that we're now under 15 minutes before launching the first all-civilian mission to orbit. Again, these
If
are
they
for
launch
non-professional
from
astronauts.
the
they're
ocean
people just like us,
outside
and they're
of,
going to be going to space for 3 days.
like
They're
in
gonna be
international
orbiting,
waters, do they
at
have to tell the
orbiting Earth at
FAA?
Yes, they're an
17,500
American
get
company.
permission from
They're an
miles per
American
hour. So
company.
they're basically
Yes.
going so fast that they
Hell,
won't fall
Rocket
down to
Lab
Earth
has to
until
get
we
FAA
tell
permission
Dragon
to launch
do so.
from New Zealand.
And they're going to be going up to a height of
Why?
575
Because they're an American company.
kilometers.
Yep, and at those speeds,
the
and at
FAA
those
are
altitudes,
stupid.
They're going to be doing tons of science, which is super
That's-
cool. And
that's
all of that
dumb.
data is going to be available
That's really
for,
dumb.
Folks
If
to,
they were launching from the middle of the ocean,
continue
though,
to push
FAA
the boundaries
permission
of
would be
what human
dead
space
simple.
exploration
Like
will
what?
be in the
The
near
only
future.
thing the FAA cares about is whether or not it will kill a person. If there's nobody around, they don't care.
So that's a live view of Falcon
I don't
9
like 'em.
with Crew Dragon for the Inspiration 4 mission.
Yeah,
sitting
you
on
go
top.
to
There
do
we can
battle with
see
the
our
Federal
4 soon-to-be
Aviation
astronauts there,
Administration,
comfortable
whatever the heck
in
they're
their
called.
seats. Throughout the day,
will.
we have seen a lot of camaraderie, a lot of joking, and I imagine that things are starting to get a little more serious. They're really focusing in on the task
Poor
at
Jade.
hand, which is going to space in just a little over 13 minutes.
Yeah, this is very exciting. If you've been following along, they do have a Netflix documentary
13
following
minutes,
their journey all
everybody.
the way up until this point.
Here
And the
we
crew
go.
has just been so incredible. It's been so amazing to watch them throughout this whole process, and very excited to see them strapped in their seats, ready to go.
We're just inside T-minus 13 minutes, counting down. Everything is still looking good for launch of Falcon 9 and Dragon.
I hate that I'm getting
8
nervous and
hours, 2
anxious
minutes,
about this.
56 seconds
Yeah, me too,
Eastern
man.
Daylight Saving Time.
Like, I don't
Coming up
care
very shortly.
nearly as much
Falcon
when
9
it's just
did
a
begin
normal
propellant
launch.
loading on time
No,
at T-minus
crude
35
launches
minutes.
are different.
Loading of the
Crude launches, I'm like,
kerosene fuel onto the second stage is complete.
this
Look
has
Look how
to
excited
go
they
well.
are.
Fuel loading is continuing on the larger first stage tank. It's about half full right now. That'll
It's like
finish
it
at
has to
T-minus
go
7
well,
minutes. We ought to hear that call out
'cause
on the webcast.
If it doesn't,
We're continuing to load densified liquid oxygen onto the first stage
Bad
and
things.
into
Don't
the
think about
second
that.
yeah,
stage tank.
I know. I can't help
The
it.
liquid
I'm
oxygen load will wrap up at about
Catastrophizing
3
again?
minutes on
Hello,
first
Jake
stage,
Acapella.
2
You
minutes on
better
the second
stick around and
stage.
watch this with us.
Now, a
You
reminder, now that
workaholic,
we are
you.
into propellant loading, we cannot stop the countdown and try to
Hey,
launch
Jake.
later in the window. So if a problem
take
arises,
12 minutes off. Actually, no. Take
No, more like a half an hour.
Take a half hour.
Hold. We don't want to hear. We would have to scrub for the night and try again. We have
Please,
an
no
launch
holds.
opportunity tomorrow, just a little bit later, if conditions allowed. Conditions
You
of
have to
Falcon 9
watch
being
this. This is
go,
bloody
range
history
is go.
happening.
Weather. We've had
Yep,
great
yep.
cooperation out of the Florida weather, both ground level, upper altitude, and around the world at the contingency
I love watching the
landing
rocket.
sites. On the
I don't know,
Dragon spacecraft, Dragon
outgassed like
mission
that.
director and that team has reported no issues. They've done their communications
breathing.
checkout.
This thing is very
Crew
cold.
access
That's
arm
what
that
that
you
means.
can see is retracted away from the Dragon spacecraft. We armed the launch escape system on time. And on the right-hand side of the monitor, you can see the 4-person crew strapped in, and they are ready to go. Coming up in about a minute, we're going to get final instructions to the crew at T-minus 10 minutes.
That's exactly what I
We're
said.
going to configure their crew displays for launch, and that's a setup that'll give
What
the
did she
crew
just ask?
insight into how the launch is
He
proceeding.
said those look
and
like
provide
horse riding
updates on
boots,
vehicle
and I
They
was
do
like,
look
"That's
like horse riding
exactly
boots."
what I
Then
said."
we'll get a little
Yep.
That's
closer to
exactly what I
T-minus
said
5
as soon
minutes.
as I
We'll
signed
begin
on.
control
Apparently, horse riding
of the
boots are
Dragon
really good
spacecraft.
to go to
Dragon will
space
go
with.
to internal power. We'll hear continued call-outs on the countdown net as we get close to 0 and a liftoff. Now, next major event coming up right now, T-minus 10 minutes, as I said. Dragon will get its final instructions. We will also
I think I can give
we
you
will
use
also
spot.
do a final series of checks of Falcon 9 telemetry
All right.
against a preset limits. Make sure that all systems are go.
Fair point,
We'll
Super
be
Serious.
moving from there into
That's
the
why they're not streaming the whole thing.
chilling in
Yep.
the engines
Yeah,
to
that's
get
one of the
ready
events they
for
have planned
engine
out there, and they
ignition
don't want to stream
down
that.
at about T-minus 2 seconds.
You gotta hide the existence of the space
Listen in
unicorns.
on the countdown net for a minute.
Starts.
T-minus
Dragons,
10
10
minutes.
Confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
Woo, boy.
SpaceX Dragon, our displays are configured for launch.
Copy that, Dragon. And it has been an absolute honor to prepare you for this historic flight. Today, you are truly inspiring the world. We wish you a great mission. Good luck, Godspeed, and enjoy the ride.
I'm gonna say I'm actually really disappointed right now.
No, you're not. You're just pretending
I
you
am.
are
No, you're
for dramatic effect.
No, I'm actually really disappointed that there's only
Okay,
about
looks like we passed through another event. The
like
T-minus 10
about
minute
30,000
call-up to the crew to
people or
reconfigure.
300,000 people
And
watching
final
this.
message from the ground team as they get ready to
Only.
have Inspiration 4
like
team
that's a
inspire
lot.
the world.
It
It's a
should
lot.
be
Nine side, we're
millions.
doing the last T-minus
No,
minute,
but it's not
T-minus
like
10-minute checks. And the next major
back in
event
the
coming up,
olden
I think
days.
you've got that event.
I know, but it should be
Yeah, that was-
like
I
back
just
in the
wanna
old
note that
days. This
was,
is
SpaceX Core, which stands for.
If
the
it helps
Crew
at all, there are a
Operations
lot of
and
other
Resource
people that
Engineer.
are
That was the voice of
streaming
Sarah
this,
Gillis,
and they all have their own audiences
and
too.
she is basically the primary resource to the crew. We can see
Like,
some excitement there on the
NASA
right-hand side of your screen as the crew.
spaceflight.com
I
has
think they're really
40,000
starting to
people
realize
watching.
that they're going to space in under 10 minutes. Now the next major event.
Everyday
we have
Astronaut
coming up
has 30,000
will occur at
people watching his
T-minus
stream.
7 minutes. You'll
okay. So they've got like
for
350, maybe 400,000.
Engine
It
chill
should
is
be at a
As the
million
name says, we chilled
minimum.
down some of the hardware.
I agree.
Minimum.
Oh, and there's also
So a
like
little bit of
Netflix
the
is doing their
super
own stream
chilled,
as well.
densified
So
liquid oxygen.
there might be a
Oh,
bunch
yeah,
of
that's
people
true.
watching
And
there.
allow that hardware to basically come down, the temperature come down. This allows us to avoid any thermal shock to the hardware when the full flow
Dim.
of super chilled
Oh,
liquid
it's
oxygen
behind the
occurs
side.
at startup.
Greetings, Joni2948.
Brilliance with the Inspiration 4 crew strapped in
Agreed.
seats there at the top of the rocket.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying, Jade.
Once again, if you're just joining us, this is the first all-civilian mission to orbit, and they
Also
are
true, though.
going to space in 7.5 minutes. They will be ascending to an altitude of
7.5 minutes.
575 kilometers above Earth and orbiting Earth at that altitude for 3 days. There's that crew there on your screen. On the far left seat is Chris Sombroski.
Oh boy.
Next to him, Dr. Cyan Proctor, the pilot. Next to her to the right, Commander Jared Isaacman. And to the right
And
of Jared,
engine
Katie
chill.
Arsenault, the medical officer.
Stage 1.
Oh, here we go.
All right, there's that call that Stage 1 engine chill has started.
Yeah, I mean
Don't
that's
really
fair,
have a
super
good view,
serious,
but
but I
right
also
now at
think
the base
that's
of the
like
Falcon
I think
9,
that's disappointing.
nine
Like
Merlin engines are beginning to vent a little bit of liquid oxygen overboard down into the flame bucket.
I don't know. I think this should be
Looks like it's
publicized
chilling in
more.
the
It should be
turbopumps
talked about more. It should
preparation
be.
for going
I mean,
to high-speed flow at
SpaceX are
T-minus
doing
2
everything they can
seconds.
do.
Nice view on top.
I know.
of the
I'm not.
structure
It's not
looking
on
down at the
SpaceX.
dragon.
It's on like.
Transporter Rector or Strong.
Where's
Back is
the
currently
news coverage
still
of this? Where's
clamped
the
onto
like?
second
I don't
stage
know.
right
I'm
next
not
to
sure.
the
Maybe
vehicle.
they are covering
We'll
it.
see
I'm
that
not, I don't
retract
know.
starting about 4.5 minutes before launch when the arms open up and then the strong back will recline.
Does anybody
away a
know?
couple
I don't even
degrees.
have traditional
What we're
TV
getting ready
anymore, so
for-
I can't find out.
Right now is
Yeah,
the
it's true.
call-out
Jake, no, it's not. That's not ominous.
Refined petroleum
This
blend,
is
rocket
this is
propellant
actually
is loaded onto the first stage.
really well done viral marketing by Disney for Fantastic Four's next
You can see
movie.
that moist Florida air slowly breezing by the
When they
chill
come
down,
back, you're going to be
liquid
surprised as they're announced
milk
as
coming
the
off the
actors
moisture that you
in
need to
the Fantastic Four film.
oxygen gives you those clouds.
It's all viral marketing.
Yeah, that super chilled liquid oxygen coming into contact with the ambient Florida air. So creates
Well,
these,
then the
these
cable news
clustered
channels have
white
no idea what
clouds,
they're doing.
As John said, completely normal.
Yeah.
In fact, we will be seeing more of those once LOX load completes and those lines are closed off to the vehicle. Coming up.
We're coming up
just about
shortly
10
here on
seconds,
strong back
we should be
retracts. You'll see
hearing
the
call
big
that
structure
Dragon,
move away from the
has
rocket there.
been transitioned to its terminal count configuration.
I love the huge cloud that that Falcon 9 has made around itself.
Dragon has transitioned.
You can't see that normally during the day as well, but
Falcon 9 tanks.
probably because it's colder at night.
With
and
the
it's-
big
it's
lights,
staying
too?
in the air more, and the lights, yeah, it's really cool.
Everything
Good job,
is going
Darsh.
to go on schedule. We're
5
getting
minutes to
pressure on
spare.
the Tanks. That'll help stiffen the second stage up. Is the 2 hydraulic clamp arms.
Super
will
serious.
open up
People have
coming
been
up here
staying
very
in
shortly.
space for like 30 years.
Yeah, we've actually been continuously in space for a long time.
Strong back
Since
as
the
well,
90s.
right?
Yep. I hope that we'll get some excitement on a moon landing again.
You better
when
damn
that
well
happens.
get some exciting on
we
your moon
better.
landing.
And if we don't for that, if we don't get more
As you
people
can see on the
watching a
timeline
Mars
there,
launch and
bottom
landing
of your
than watched
screen,
the original moon
strong
landing,
back retraction
it's
to the next
over.
major
Write
event.
humanity off.
In fact,
Just
the last
give
physical
up. It's
event or
done.
modification to the
I
pad
can't wait
prior
until we
to
have like a
liftoff.
moon base and we can like live stream from the moon. People like walking around outside with cameras, and it'd be amazing.
Falcon 9 is
We're
nearly
3 minutes and 45
fully
seconds away
loaded
from
with
Inspiration
almost
4
100
launching.
To be 1 million pounds.
Wait till James Cameron decides that his next film actually has to be filmed on the moon because that's the only way to do it justice.
At one point, James Cameron was partnered with NASA to put a camera on
All right,
one of
there
the
on your
Mars
screen,
rovers,
you can see
but it
that
got
the strong
canceled.
back is beginning to
Oh, that's too bad.
And Kate, that strong back will move. just a
Darge, we're gonna
couple
call
of
it mooning.
degrees You see here. Then at T0, when the Falcon 9 sends the liftoff command to the ground to release it,
to be 1 million pounds
No stream.
of
No
liquid
stream.
kerosene and liquid oxygen. That liquid oxygen is what we see venting there, those white clouds. All right, there on your screen you can see that the strong back is beginning to retract.
and Kate, that strong back will move back just a couple of degrees you see here. Then at T0, when the Falcon 9 sends the liftoff command to the ground to release it, hydraulics will bring that.
Eric, what's your timing at?
We've got the
Catching
call
up
out right on
again.
time. First stage liquid oxygen loading
Okay.
complete. Shutting down the ground pumps. We're down to
2:45
the
here.
liquid oxygen.
And now, under 3 minutes until launch of Inspiration 4.
Dragon has transitioned to terminal count and is on internal power.
All right, there's that call out that Dragon is now running on its own power. It is no longer connected to
Hey.
the power systems of Pad 39A. As you just
Dragon's on its own.
heard, the crowd is
2:30.
super excited here at SpaceX
Yeah,
headquarters in Hawthorne,
2:25.
California, as we are now under 2.5
Okay, Darge.
minutes until the launch of the Inspiration 4 crew.
Oh shit, we're lost 2 minutes.
That crew there can be
Oh,
seen
boy.
on the right-hand side of your screen, buckled in and ready to go.
I've been watching for like 3.5 hours. Now we're in the last 2 minutes.
2 minutes till launch.
Everyone ready? Everyone buckled into their computer chairs?
Everyone terrified? Yes.
Stage 2 LOX load complete.
And there's the call that Stage 2 LOX load is
Dragon
complete.
is an auto idle.
Falcon
Dragon
is
is
now
an auto idle.
fully loaded with all of its
Gas
propellants.
closeout will begin shortly.
Falcon 9
Expect
will
loud
will go
venting.
into startup at what, T-minus 1 minute?
Announcement to let the crew know that as we vent off various lines on the launch pad, we'll hear some loud noises. Let the crew know that's planned. We're also right
You can
now
see that
draining the liquid oxygen
the visors are down for all the crew.
out of the transporter erector,
Ready to
draining
launch.
the lines, getting ready,
Ready to
for
launch.
waiting for the startup
1:10.
call at T-minus 1 minute.
Okay. Let's listen.
Falcon 9's in the startup.
FPS is on. Falcon 9 is in startup. Falcon 9 is in startup.
Dragon is in countdown.
Start up.
The rocket's waking up.
You can hear the cheers. We're inside 1 minute.
Go for launch.
Go for launch.
Go for launch.
Go for launch.
Inspiration 4 is go for launch. Punch it, SpaceX.
Punch it.
Woo!
The
Inspiration 4 is go for launch.
Punch it, SpaceX. Punch it.
20 seconds.
20.
15.
T-minus 15 seconds.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There they go! They're off the bed!
Come on, you
go into space!
Beautiful bastard. Oh, man.
Downrange.
Oh, such a beautiful launch. Wow. Go, Falcon, go!
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Nominal, okay.
T plus 30 seconds. Callouts indicate nominal. Historic mission flying the Inspiration 4 crew. Onboard Dragon and Falcon 9. Great view of the crew in the
Oh
capsule.
my.
We're into the throttle down, into the throttle bucket.
Stage 1 throttle down.
Throttle down.
Into the throttle bucket.
Throttling down in preparation for the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
1,000 kilometers an hour.
Minute into flight.
9 is supersonic.
Max Q coming up in a few moments, which is maximum aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle.
Essentially the most dangerous part of the launch.
Yep.
Stage 1 throttle up.
And
they're back into throttle up. The end of the bucket.
We're throttled back up, and 1 Bravo, the call out from space. That's one of the abort sequences. That is a nominal call. Everything continues.
Everything is good. Oh man.
They are at 20 kilometers and 2,000 kilometers per
Looks
hour.
like a smooth ride for the crew.
Wow.
Things going well. I'm glad they're showing some shots inside.
That's beautiful.
What a great shot. Wow.
Wow.
Go, baby, go. 155. Merlin Vacuum is chilling down. Getting ready to go.
Yeah. She is having the time of her life in there.
Yep.
She is loving it. Almost 5,000 kilometers an hour.
Altitude is 55 kilometers.
Merlin engines are throttling down for G limiting. 4 Gs, we're holding it there for the crew.
Holding it at 4 Gs.
Major event coming
Main
up
engine
will
cutoff
be
in a
main
few
engine
seconds.
cutoff, followed by stage separation, looking at the second
Come
stage
on.
engine nozzle, and then ignition of the second stage.
We have Miko.
And
it's gone.
There she is.
Stage separation.
Separation.
And go, baby, go.
Beauty.
Woo!
Oh man, look at that.
Off they go.
That is beautiful.
Oh, you see the arc of the Earth there? Just the sun shining behind
Yes,
it?
just
That's
the
amazing.
That's beautiful.
Officially, the Inspiration 4 crew are now on their way to space.
Good job, Falcon.
The booster there on the left-hand side of your screen is making its way back down to Earth. The grid fins have popped out to assist with the steering. It will be
See all
making
the
a
little
landing
bits of
attempt
ice
on our drone
around
ship. Just read the instructions.
the first stage? That's so cool.
Parked out
They're all like crackling off.
The little flashes are the thrusters on the first stage.
Bermuda.
By the way, you are going to see
As
some
Kate
amazing
mentioned,
pictures of
left-hand
that
side
from
is
the
a view
ground.
From the top of our first stage, looking
This is
down,
going to be
already separated from the second stage,
just
and it's
glorious
making
for
its way back to
pictures.
Earth. The velocity of the first
Some
stage
long
is
exposures
nominal.
of
It's being
the
tracked on the
like the
bottom
arc
left-hand side of
in
your
the
screen.
dark is
On the
going to be
right-hand
lovely.
side of your screen is a view of our second stage Merlin vacuum engine. On the
We have a bit of a
opposite end
calm here
that engine is
for
the second stage
about 4
and the
minutes
crew,
while
which sits on top
the
of
second stage
everything
puts
looks
them into
to be
orbit.
going normal,
and then a whole bunch of shit happens
with
really
them,
fast.
And you can also track the velocity on the second stage on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. And we also have awesome views.
The
of
spacecraft
crew
is now
inside
going
of the capsule as well.
8,400 kilometers
I'm
per hour.
pretty sure during first stage ascent, I saw Dr. Cyan Proctor I'm pretty sure I saw Dr. Cyan Proctor give us 2 thumbs up. I'm sure she enjoyed this ride that she's been waiting for her entire life.
Yes. One notable thing too is we're getting some twilight views. The sun just set in Florida, but we're high enough
Amazing.
Up where the light around the horizon is also reflecting off of very high altitude objects,
Beautiful.
such as the first and second stage.
Really, really good pictures so far on this as well. The
Love to hear that call out. Trajectory
You watching
nominal from the
4K?
guidance engineer.
I'm not actually.
Notice we're
It's got 4K.
really up there now, well past 100 kilometers.
Acquisition of signal.
I didn't want to strain my internet.
That view switch.
Fair
we
enough.
Saw some teammate fist bumps going on there inside of the cabin.
Yeah, they look like they're having a fun ride there. And their journey isn't
over
over.
10,000
We've got
kilometers per
about
hour.
7 more minutes until Dragon separates from the second stage.
Wow.
Yes, next milestone for this mission is actually
This
going to
is
be
such a
happening on the
beautiful
first
view of
stage.
the first stage on the
It's
left,
going to
too.
be
It's nice and
performing
lit
a
up. You
re-entry
can actually
burn
see
that's going to be coming up
really
around
well.
the T plus 7 minute
Is
and,
now I
30-second mark. That burn is
It's lit up just by
used to slow down the first stage
like
before
the
it
sunset.
re-enters the denser parts of the atmosphere.
That's amazing.
A few minutes later, it'll execute a landing burn.
So it's actually going to go
and
back
make
into
an
the dark.
attempt
You'll be able
land
to
on
see it
our
go
drone
back
ship
into the
that's
dark here
currently
as it
parked
comes
in the
back down to
Atlantic
ground.
Ocean.
Yeah.
Dragon
That's
SpaceX,
so cool.
trajectory nominal.
It's going to
Trajectory
disappear
nominal.
as it.
Dragon copies.
And
So far.
they're in space.
I was just going to say, so far,
Well
everything
into
looking
space,
great for the
yes.
inspiration
They're in
4
space.
crew.
They've been in space for a
Hearing
few minutes
everything
now.
is proceeding nominally there with the second stage, which is what you see on the right-hand side. That
Stage 2 propulsion is nominal.
Thank you, Griffin.
That MVAC engine we just heard now is looking nominal.
What just happened?
He gifted 5 subscriptions to people in the community.
Thank you, Griffin.
About a minute left to go before the first stage performs its first burn.
Coming
And
up on
on your
entry burn
left-hand
for
side,
the
looking at the
first stage.
you may see those white puffs. Those are the nitrogen puffs helping to steer and guide the vehicle. Basically,
Dragon SpaceX.
15,000 kilometers an hour.
basically is the attitude control
You can see that the first stage is going back into the darkness now.
for the vehicle as
Yeah.
it makes its way back
Just as
down
they cut
there.
away from it.
Yeah, right.
There's the crew.
I
on the
love
right-hand side
how,
of your screen.
like-
I think
I love the thumbs up.
Thumbs up there. Dr.
Yeah.
Proctor is clearly excited that she's finally in space.
I love how
Again,
like
the
red
mission
hot
will
the
be
engine
orbiting
is
Earth
in
for
the dark.
3 days,
It's beautiful.
and they will be at an altitude of 575 kilometers.
Now that it's in the
Which,
dark,
if I
look at
remember
those
correctly,
nitrous
Shauna,
shots.
You said that that is the distance from Los Angeles
We
to the
are
Golden
just a couple
Gate
seconds
Bridge.
here from entry burn startup on stage 1.
They're going to get
So
there a
watch for
lot
that.
faster.
Stage 2, FTS is saved.
There
Here
we
she
go.
goes. Woo! Also, you heard the call out for stage 2 FTS save. That means that they no longer need to abort if they, yeah, they're in orbit, basically.
What you're seeing on screen on the left
Awesome.
side is the entry burns, the first of 2 burns on the first stage. Again, this first stage has already separated from the second stage. So the first stage is making its way back to
And it's
Earth,
gone.
trying to land, and the second
Poof,
stage
in the
everything is
darkness.
going
Oh,
well.
and then you can
It
start
is
to see the heat on the
with
grid
crew
fins
on
from
board.
entering the
Actually,
atmosphere.
there on your screen, you can see a sunrise horizon there. With
22,000
planet Earth,
kilometers an hour.
just behind the glowing MVAC engine.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Call out stage 2 and terminal guidance.
Griff, I think we should be paying you for subjecting you to our commentary, but
If you're wondering, crew's pulling about 3.5 Gs right now, less than they took on the first stage flight.
So in about 15 seconds, we are expecting
Copy,
the
Shannon.
We are
Throttle
expecting
down.
the MVAC to throttle down and cut off in an event called second engine cutoff, and then we'll wait for the confirmation of good orbit. At the same time, the first stage will be beginning its landing burn.
Woo!
Nice.
And here we have the
Second
MVAC.
engine
We
cut
just saw
off.
that it
And
shut off
Pico.
its engine.
And stage 1 should be landing right now.
Dragon SpaceX.
I want to see it land.
All right, good news there. Nominal orbit insertion. That's amazing news for Inspiration 4.
Okay, they're in orbit.
Nominal orbit insertion. Woo! Oh, here she comes.
There it is.
Got legs. Got a drone ship.
Carried right to the doorstep of an exciting and unexplored frontier. A few have come before.
I mean,
many
we're
are
used to
about
that by
follow.
now.
The door's opening now, and it's pretty incredible.
Hey, they've got a little, what do they have?
Dragon SpaceX launch escape system is disarmed.
Yeah, they've got...
Oh, look at the view on the left of the curvature of the Earth there.
Oh, wow.
That's like a...
I'm sorry, Eric. The Earth is flat?
No, it's not.
Clearly?
The Dragon capsule and crew are in a nominal orbit. In a few minutes
Every
here,
time
we'll
somebody
begin
says that,
opening
someone
that-
believes them.
Oh, excuse me. In a few minutes,
I know.
we'll separate from the second stage.
They have a
and then
Ziggy
shortly after
indeed.
that, We'll begin opening that nose cone. At the same time, we landed our first stage on the drone ship,
As if
which is super exciting.
As if the
Landing
second
was
stage action
successful.
wasn't exciting enough.
Right.
Awesome.
Dragon deploy coming up in just a minute or two here.
So there's that MVAC
Oh,
engine,
yeah.
like we mentioned before. It has
Almost
already
there.
shut down
Yep.
in an event known as second engine cutoff. And the crew are now gliding, if you will.
Now, one thing right now is we're coming up just under 11 minutes in the flight.
Yep.
We're waiting another minute and a half or so before we get into the separation sequence. The second stage is going through a series of events where we make sure that gases are all pushed out of the system. There aren't any what they call disturbance torques. We want to make sure that the second stage
I
is
wonder,
very stable.
the ISS
it's
just
quiet,
passed
it's
over
not
Cape
moving out,
Canaveral.
it's not doing
I'm
anything.
wondering if they managed to get some
Minute
shots
effect,
of
we
the
just got
launch
everything
from the
down,
space station.
Then go into quiet mode.
I hope they
Then
did.
Dragon
That would be
will send the
amazing.
command to
Yep.
separate itself from the Falcon 9. It'll be pushed away. Falcon 9 stays in orbit for a while till it eventually comes back to Earth, and then Dragon moves on its way.
Yeah, John, you talked about the terminal count earlier today, and this is almost similar to that. It's like another check before the next event that happens.
Is that a camera from inside the dome?
It's
We're about
inside
30 seconds away.
It's between
from,
the second stage and Dragon.
separation
So
of
they're going to show
Dragon.
the separation
The
of
second stage.
when
the
it
view on the
separates.
left-hand side of the screen is a view
Cool,
of
that's
the
coming up.
pressurized section
Yep.
of Dragon. So it's the
Couple seconds
back
here.
and the trunk section of the Dragon. So when we do see separation, we'll see that kind of push away from
Dragon
the second
deploy
stage
in just
and make its way into
20
orbit.
seconds or so. And then they'll be free flying in their spacecraft.
Once again, the Inspiration 4 has lifted off from pad
First
39A.
all civilian
they are
crew
now in orbit,
orbit.
around Earth and where
In orbit.
Woo! There they go!
Separation confirmed.
Free flying.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
They're free.
Wow.
And copy that, Gerst. We really appreciate everyone's help back in LCC.
That was the voice of SpaceX Chief Engineer Bill Gerstenmayer communicating with Inspiration 4 Commander Jared Isaacman.
That's amazing.
So Dragon
Well,
is separated
bloody
away
done.
from the second stage. And that's the view that we have on the left-hand side of your screen. A lot of space there.
Expected
the
loss of
next,
signal Bermuda and New Hampshire.
and then the next event that we are anticipating is the opening.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts.
We're going to open up that nose
And copy
cone.
that, Sarah. We show it to you.
Oh, are they opening it up?
So we heard the call out. Nominal Draco checkouts.
I want to
after
see that nose
separation.
cone.
And there's that first view that we have over the shoulders of Commander Jared
See the
Isaacman
screens?
and pilot
I love the
Cyan
shots
those
of
are
the screens.
lovely.
Dr. Cyan
Aren't they?
Proctor's on the
They
right-hand
control the
side.
entire spacecraft
and,
from the touch
Jared's
screens.
on the left-hand side, and this is
That's beauty.
their dashboard.
If the touch
for
screens
the
go
next
out, they have a
3
whole,
days.
they have
These
like
touch
80
screens provide
80 or
them
90
all of the
buttons
telemetry
underneath
and
that
data
they can also
information,
control it from
about
there.
the systems on board Dragon.
Pretty good.
That they can interact
Mm-hmm.
with while on orbit.
That's
not
got to
like-
be a lot easier
We
too.
can see the
Yeah,
zero G
rather than the like
there.
4,000 buttons that were in the shuttle.
And
Yeah.
it looks like it is
That's
a little
zero G
golden
indicator.
retriever.
Oh, like
Is that a
the golden
monkey?
retriever
Yes, I
assistance
gathered.
dogs at St. Jude.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a
Children's
golden
Hospital.
retriever. Okay.
That is.
It's a golden
Cool.
retriever. All right.
Oh, I love it. 5th crew member on board with the Inspiration 4 crew.
So in a few seconds here,
Always
we
a
are
Ziggy.
expecting the nose cone to open up.
Gotta be a Ziggy.
Hopefully, we'll be able to see the first views of the Dragon cupola
Ooh,
in space.
Awesome. Yes, open that nose cone. We want to see the cupola.
There we can see that they have just
I want to
opened
see.
up their visors.
Oh, are they masks up?
Yep.
And there is a forward hatch.
They don't have a lot of
inside
room in there
Dragon,
for the next 3
between
days.
the cupola
I mean,
and
there's
the
enough room
crew,
to move
So
around
when the nose
and go to
cone
the
does
bathroom.
deploy, they won't
But
immediately get to
not
see
like
out
That's
the
about
cupola,
it.
but
enough
once
for
they
much privacy.
get out of their
No.
seats, open up that hatch, they'll get some incredible views of space.
It's a hell of a lot bigger than a lot of the previous spacecrafts, but it's still not very big.
Yeah.
It's also a lot smaller than like Starship is going to
Oh
be.
yeah, that's a good point, Darsh. There's room below them, I guess.
Yes, there is room below them. Yeah.
Once
That's
again,
cool.
the cupola is
That's amazing.
the observation dome that was installed. It's brand new hardware
And yes,
to this
I
mission.
wouldn't really care living
It
in a small
is
space for
in
3 days
place
if
of
I got to go to
what
space
was
for it.
the
I'd be totally fine with
docking
that.
adapter. Or excuse me, the docking mechanism that allowed Crew Dragon
Griff,
to
that's
freeze
a low
the
blow.
International Space Station. Due to the fact that the space station is not our
Accurate.
destination today, we were able to pull out
But-
that docking mechanism and insert the cupola.
I love the
which
big
will
crowd at
basically
SpaceX
provide
watching.
a 360 view of
Yeah.
space for our passengers
Doing the wave.
inside Crew Dragon Resilience here, which I cannot wait for.
Oh, what a bunch of
first
nerds.
views of
I
the
love it.
cupola. You know, everything that we've seen on the ground here is just incredible, and to see it actually in action.
There are
with
currently
those
14
360
people in
views
space.
Is going to be breathtaking for us. I
It's a
can't
new
even
record.
imagine what it might
That's the
be
most,
like
eh?
to
Yep.
actually experience it in person.
Yeah, this is going to be incredible, and I can't wait for them
Fantastic.
to get the first look out, and hopefully
Lots of signal, Newfoundland.
we'll get to see some of their reactions when they first look out that window.
There's
Yeah,
no
so if you are
expected
just
time
joining
for
us,
them to
this
open it up.
is
It's just
the
whenever it
Inspiration
happens,
4
right?
mission, the first
And
all
acquisition of signal, Green Hill.
the first all-civilian crew into space. The team had a nominal ascent out
I'm
of
not
Pad
sure.
39A in Kennedy Space Center and are currently in orbit around the Earth.
Fantastic.
Yeah, what an incredible place to be in right now when we can say we have now put 4 civilians into space, into orbit. It's been an incredible journey for us to get here. We didn't do this alone. There's a lot of history working with our partners, NASA, to get us to this point. A lot of efforts with reusability and reflying vehicles, which we've seen on this mission.
Well done,
particularly.
SpaceX.
We've
Yeah, no
reflown the
shit.
booster 3 times. Dragon, we flew for
Like-
a second time here. First flew
This
on Crew
this
1
is
last
historic.
year. And now,
Mm-hmm.
Jared, Cyan, Chris, and
This
Haley
isn't,
are out
government.
in
It's not
space.
military. This is
It's pretty incredible.
a purely
Just the
civilian
fact
launch
that,
by
these are normal, regular people.
a company.
Non.
It's not a government, and that's
and they're now in
It's a
space.
big deal.
that is significant. That is
Okanger.
really
And
significant.
it's just
So-
wonderful to know that the access to space,
Especially to
has
orbit, and I don't
opened
think a lot of
up.
people
I
get this,
believe
but
in
orbital flight
the
is like a
note
billion
that
times
Jared
harder than
relayed
going to
back
space.
ground. He said
Yeah.
that
You
the
can go
doors
straight
you can
up
go to
and
space
come back.
straight up
was
and come back down.
It's
just
not that
pop
big a
out a
deal.
parachute.
as
Whatever.
They can't quite see
Orbit
through the
is,
dome just yet, as we mentioned before. But
A whole other ball game.
Metaphorically, it must be an incredible
Yeah.
feeling to be on board Crew Dragon at this moment.
I bet everyone's super jealous of Haley.
It also really,
she can just turn to her left and
again,
see everything.
sort of accentuates how far ahead SpaceX are
approaching the
than everyone else.
Island.
Yep.
We're 249
And I hope that's not
kilometers up,
always
so
the
we're
case,
heading
'cause
from
we
the
need
200
other
kilometers,
companies doing
where
this,
we injected
but
to
they are
575.
at
We'll
this
begin
point,
circularizing
they
the orbit.
are
But more importantly, we got
well
into
ahead of
contact
anyone else.
with the ground station in England,
It's
and
not
they
even
confirmed
close.
the nose cone is open.
Amazing.
So another major
Nose
event,
cone is
the hooks
open.
that hold it down have opened up, and then the nose
Sweet.
cone deploys
So hopefully we
itself
get a
up
shot of the
on its actuator. So
of
that
the
exposes
cupola
the cupola, and we're
soon.
going to see if we might get.
Yeah, I'd like to get a shot of that
before we sign off.
They're waiting too to try and get a shot of it before they go off there.
We aren't going to the International Space Station. We're actually just going out into space, into orbit. So they will be doing a couple burns. Another one will be, or the first one will be 45 minutes into flight, and then another 90 minutes into flight, and that'll take them to their final orbit of 575 kilometers away from Earth.
They're further away than the ISS.
At this point, it sounds like we're actually not going to be able to get views
they're not there
of
yet,
the nose
but they
cone
will be.
opening and of that cupola. So
they have a couple more
unfortunately,
burns to
we
do
won't be able to bring that
get
to you live at the moment.
circularize to orbit when they get up
However,
there.
we will be providing
But
that
yes, they'll
footage
be
once
about
it becomes
150
available.
kilometers
And the four of us are
higher
super
than the
excited
ISS.
to see.
So has anyone been that far from Earth since the moon launches stopped?
Yes, yes, but not since the shuttle. The shuttle did it a couple times because
over the next
during
45 minutes, they'll
the
reach
Hubble
their
servicing
cruising
mission.
orbit and spend the next 3 days
So they did it, but it hasn't been done
we'll be
by
checking
anybody in the
periodically
last
with the
22
crew
years.
to see how they're enjoying their.
They are going to be the furthest people away from planet Earth in the last 22 years. That is
Curious and want to know where Dragon is at orbiting
sad,
the Earth.
almost.
Keep tabs on the mission.
But
really
it's
exciting.
good. The whole industry is accelerating right now, though. I think it's going to
stay on
change
top of any
really
potential
fast from
live
here on out.
events that we might be able to have with the crew while they're out in
Like,
orbit by following
It
us
wouldn't
on
surprise
social.
me at all
And
to see
finally,
a
for
private
today,
moon
the
landing
thank yous,
within a couple years
Kennedy
of NASA
Space
doing
Center,
it again.
the Eastern
Because it's going to be
Range for the
SpaceX
support
that does
getting
it.
us through the countdown.
So
the FAA for launch approval.
I mean, honestly, as
and
soon
of
as
course, the
SpaceX
inspiration
have
for
the
their confidence in SpaceX, getting into
the
space
BFR
today.
up and running,
Thank you to everyone
Haven't
who
heard that in a
is
while.
logged in to watch.
It's
our
all I ever
webcast
think of it as.
And donated to the St. Jude Children.
as soon as they have the
we wish
BFR
you
up
a
and
good
running,
day.
they could do it at any time, basically.
Yep.
Like,
all right, so they have decided to sign off for the evening. I think that they were not able to get the shot they wanted it soon enough, but they will keep in, pay attention to social media. They'll have it up soon.
Yep.
And yeah, pay attention to our Discord. The link is down below on Twitch. We will be doing more coverage of this mission. I'm hoping to cover the landing as well.
thank you for having me on, Eric, and thank you all for watching us.
Darge, I am not wrong. The shuttle servicing missions a couple times went up above 600 kilometers. Or the Hubble servicing missions. You can go look it up, including STS-103, which went up to 609 kilometers. So
Never question Space Pope. Space Pope is always right.
No, you can question me all you want, but in this case, I'm right. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I had a great time. And I hope you all love that as much as I did. I know we talk about it a lot, but that really is next step into another generation of spaceflight, and hopefully that we can continue the momentum this time.
We live in
all the way to
exciting
Mars.
times. Let's watch them.
All right, everybody, we're gonna log off for the night. Thank you so much, and talk to you soon.